It's been 12 months since acquittal, and so much has passed us by. Such a scattering with evidence, and some blatant flat-out lies. Special new prosector, and Hank Breeden is his name. He is a dirty Boston lawyer, and his arguments are lame. He's tried to squash all of our experts, as he has no case to claim. He should have won an Oscar medal to convince the court he's sane. He can lie without a conscience and keep that smirk upon his face. I bet he wears those silky undies, the ones with edging made of lace. And Judge Beverly Academy is so biased for the state, is wading through 100 motions in a rush to seal my fate. So you can bring in Massachusetts, cause we all ain't got no quit. And we all know that the truth is my car is not the thing John hit.
Good morning, all. Yeah, be afraid, be afraid. I'm in charge of the stream. Yeah, Jodie's just doing some work uploading and comparing documents. So, you're stuck with me. And apparently not much going on in the court. So, yay! So I hope everyone's doing well today. Because there just isn't a lot going on. So the only downside with doing live court stuff is frequently there are periods where there is just nothing that interesting going on, or there are gaps where you're waiting for things to start because nothing ever runs on time. Hey, Udef. Hey, Teresa. We got. I'm not actually sure why they're broadcasting just staring at people. But hey, that's what we've got, so we're kind of stuck with it. So what's happened in the previous 3 days actually changed anyone's mind or made them think twice about what they thought before all this started?
I'm just going to put it out there. I'm saying no for Udef.
It lives!
I'm here. I'm just trying to scramble putting these last bits of stuff together. I'm coming. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I can moider the audience to death. It's not a problem. If there's one thing those Brits are good at, it's talking a lot. Yes, we have no off-button people.
True that. And drinking.
Hey, that's a vicious put around by Americans who can't drink worth shit.
Now, so are they doing the jury? Are they doing the jury tour this morning or this afternoon?
Don't know.
Okay. Yes, hopefully it's fucking.
Okay.
This morning, but gives me a bit more time to finish the last bits of the. I've got to save them as individual testimonies. analyse and yeah, easier than I thought. Plus, I had to voice enhance a particular testimony for Uda here because we're still arguing over what was said.
Oh dear.
Yeah. We were talking. Well, we were on Steve's stream yesterday, and it was Terry Roberts' cross-examination, and Steve had the caption in there that Terry Roberts admits to lying to the grand jury or something like that. And because those 4 words were never said exactly, point of contention.
Well, it was a stretch to say she lied.
Hey?
It's a stretch to say she lied.
My 2 daughters. My doorbell rang this morning, and my 2 daughters and my son-in-law came pumping into the bedroom. I'm like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, Mum, we're bringing you a new picture."
Hear ye. All persons having anything to do before the honorable.
But it's morning. Fuck off.
Judges of the Superior Court hold it in denim and hooded for all the county no harm. Draw near, give your attendance.
Oh, here we go. Looks like we're going into court action.
This court is in session. Please be seated.
Wait.
For the record before the court is Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, 22 CR 117. The parties are present. Our 18 jurors are present. The matter is on for trial.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good morning again, counsel. Good morning again, Ms. Reed.
Good morning, jurors.
Oh, what? Hang on.
I'm very much aware that we're leaving you in another
I
room
missed the
waiting,
first
but
sentence.
we were working
I saw
this
that.
morning
Turns out
to
I was
help
wrong and
streamline
you didn't
things,
read the
and
one
we
before
were
it.
successful, so we do appreciate your patience. I do have to ask you those questions. Were you all able to follow the instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday?
Yes.
Everyone nodded affirmatively or said yes. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did any of you happen to see, hear,
update
or
on
read
Steve?
anything
It
about
looks
this
like he's
case since
back
we
up
left yesterday?
Turning it down, which is good.
Thank you. Everyone said no. All right, folks, as you know, this morning we are going on a view. And a view is simply, we're going to a place that you've heard about and that you will continue to hear about during the course of the trial. The purpose of the view is to help you better understand the evidence, which you'll hear during the course of the trial, and to help you appreciate the location and its surroundings. So the view that we're going on is part of the case, and it means that the observations that you make there can be used and considered by you in your deliberations on this case in reaching a verdict. So we're going to, you've heard 34 Fairview Road in Canton. The lawyers and I will accompany you. For the Commonwealth, we'll be accompanied by Attorney Brennan, and ADA Lally, ADA Schillinger, and for the defense, Attorney Yannetti and Attorney Little. The lawyers will have the opportunity, Mr. Yannetti and Mr. Brennan, have the opportunity to point out various things that they may want you to direct your attention to. Otherwise, there's no conversation between the lawyers and the jurors. So it's simply in a few minutes, you'll hear a little bit from each Mr. Brennan and Mr. Yannetti about what they want you to look at. And then when we get there, they'll direct you, look in this direction. They won't be able to testify to you, but they'll direct you on what they want you to look at. While you're in the view, you're not to take any notes, you're not to take any pictures, you're not to conduct any independent investigation at all during the view or any time during the trial. You're not to return to this scene or ask anybody to go back there for you. Today's your chance. You'll see photographs during the course of the trial, I bet, but today's your chance to really look at everything. So the best way to summarize a view is that your job is to simply stop and look. It's really no more complicated than that. So your responsibility is to see the place, observe it carefully, and to remember what you see. Now, during the trip to and from the view, and while at the view, you're not to discuss this case or anything about it with other jurors. Will be accompanied by court officers who will direct you, and the court officers are there for all of us. So you'll be under their supervision until you're returned back here. So that's basically it. We'll be leaving in a few minutes, but first, before Madam Clerk swears the court officers in, Mr. Brennan, do you want to make a view opening?
May I?
Please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Her Honor explained to you, we're going to go to 34 Fairview Road. We have some exhibits that are already in evidence. You haven't had a long time to look at them, study them. But essentially, we're going to go to 34 Fairview Road. I ask you to pay attention to the street, the front yard of the home. And you'll see to the left side of the front yard in the corner, there'll be a car. It's the Lexus that we've spoken about, the defendant's Lexus. And you'll also see a flagpole and a fire hydrant. And so I'd ask you to take a look from different vantage points. Take a look from that area where the flagpole is, from where the fire hydrant is. And you'll see on the street before the grass is a little berm, concrete that comes up a little bit. I'd ask you just to note that when you go there. One thing I'd suggest is April 25th, 2025, not January 22nd, 2022. So the weather will be very different. The temperature will be different. The conditions will be different. We're going to go there probably at 10 o'clock. It won't be the same visibility. It won't be the same elements and the same weather. So keep that in mind when you're looking around. When you look at the Lexus, a couple of things I'd ask you to look at. There is some evidence already in of photographs of the right rear tail light. When you look at that tail light, it will be different than the photograph that is in evidence. It has been removed, so it will appear differently, and you'll later get testimony explaining that process. Also, I'd ask you to make a note on the Lexus about the height of the bumper. I'd ask you to make note of the height of the right rear tail light. And I'd also ask you to take note of, on the top of the hatchback, there is a part that protrudes. I'd ask you to take a look at that. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Ms. Tianetti?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. As I told you at the start of the trial, my name is David Iannetti. I have an office in Boston and in Dedham. And on behalf of my co-counsel, we will be accompanying you on the view that you will take today. Although the view is not evidence, I suggest to you that you will find it to be helpful, important, even necessary as you later do your investigation of this case within the four walls of this courtroom. You've already received in evidence, some photos and videos, but there is no substitute for your own two eyes. As we all know, photos and videos sometimes can be misleading in terms of relative distances, depending upon the perspective from which the photo is taken. But your eyes are the best computer that you could bring to the view. When we get to 34 Fairview, we will be pointing out certain things that we'd like you to observe. The house, the second floor window to that house, the 3 front doors in the front of the house, the driveway, the street, the front lawn, and the flagpole. And we'll be asking you specifically to consider the distance between that second floor front window and the distance between the front doors to the house and that front lawn, the distance between the driveway to the front. And we'll be asking you to take a good look at that Lexus. Just stand next to it. Just size it up. To take it in. You were all selected as jurors because the parties entrusted that you would do a proper investigation of this case within this.
Yeah.
On behalf of Ms. Reed,
No, it's still gonna be
we have every confidence that you will do a proper investigation.
We're just blowing the kettle.
All right, jurors, I have to make something very clear. So the purpose of this view is to help you better to understand the evidence that you'll hear during the trial and to help you appreciate the location and its surroundings. The view you'll take is part of this case. The observations that you make while on the view may be used and considered by you in your deliberations in reaching a verdict. So at the end of the trial, when I explain to you what is evidence and what is not, I'll remind you that your observations on this view can be used by you in your deliberations. Also, while you're in the view, the same way you're not to take any notes or photographs, you're not to conduct any investigation on this case. You really are simply to stop and look, okay? Those are the instructions. We will see you in a few minutes, all right? Thank you. Oh, sorry, Madam Clerk has to swear in the court officers.
If you could all raise your right hand, please. Do each of you solemnly swear that you will take the jury upon the premises in question and there suffer them to view the same or any property, place, or thing bearing upon the issue in the trial as the parties may think necessary? That you will not permit the parties to enter into a debate in the hearing of the jury, nor any person to speak to them unless it be the attorneys of record, then only to point out such places or things as they may deem expedient for the determination of the issues. That you will keep the jury together until they shall return to court, unless the court shall otherwise order, so help you God. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All rise, please. Jury, follow me.
I plead not guilty to this deed. We were just drinking at the bar. They think I hit you with my car, though I don't really know how, without me damaging the plow. So we found you in the snow. How you got there, I don't know. Brian Alberts was the place where we found your broken face. All the witnesses at trial claim their phones can all but dial. The McCabe say they're your friend, but the truth they surely bend. They will pull out all the stops, protecting all the crooked cops. And those cringy texts I sent to the agent that was banned were removed in single threads by machines owned by the feds. So Detective Brian's dreams were not disturbed by my shrill screams. Carrie Roberts testified, didn't fake it when she cried. Unlike Jen, who likes to mock a state of horror and of shock. It was February 22 when I last set eyes on you. Death is such a nasty thief of your life, Johnny O'Keefe.
You can watch this. I can't fucking find it anyway. Try that.
Do you know from whom he retrieved those salary report videos?
I believe it was
Individual.
the chief of police.
Okay, Chief Rafferty specifically gave him whatever videos were provided.
Correct. That's my.
He testified that there were several hundred Ring videos from One Meadows, from both the facing the driveway and the front door camera, correct?
Yes.
As the case officer, you obtained and controlled those Ring videos from One Meadows from the moment that they came into Massachusetts State Police custody until they were handed over to the Commonwealth, correct?
Yes, they were archived.
You took possession of Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone physically, correct?
Yes.
And you had access to Mr. O'Keefe's Ring account in that cell phone. Is that right?
Correct.
You indicated that you reviewed several of the videos on his Ring app on his cell phone. Is that right?
Yes.
So you obviously had not only possession of his cell phone, you had possession of his login account information to get into the app on his cell phone. Is that right?
I don't believe we had the password. We had his email account associated with the Ring.
Which means
app.
somewhere or another, you could get access to the Ring videos.
Correct.
And watch those Ring videos on his app on the phone.
Yes.
Which means you had full access to the app. You could keep videos, you could save for later, you could delete videos, you could do anything you wanted to within that app, correct?
Yes, those are the capabilities within that app.
Footage from 12:41 a.m. is gone, correct?
Yes, it's something I've tried to find through Ring for months, as well as the video when Miss Roberts, Miss McCabe, Miss Reed arrived back at John's and they're looking at the broken taillight. That video is gone as well.
Your words, quote, all the powers that be want answers ASAP. That's what you texted on January 29th, right?
Yes.
That put a lot of pressure on you, didn't it? You agreed in your group chat that you needed to, quote, make this cut and dry because another cop was involved. Those are your words, right?
Where is he?
Check.
I can't even see him.
My emotions got the best of me based on, the fact that Miss Reed hit Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle and left him to die on the side of the road. So my emotions got the best of me with that figure of speech.
And you admitted in your own words that the cop homeowner wasn't going to, quote, catch any shit.
What's up?
Are you calling me?
No.
Tanya's just rang me saying that you're calling me if I started my stuff. And it's on the screen, isn't it?
I think Tanya's behind where we are.
No.
Right?
I just need
Correct.
to make coffee and calm down.
Because you were out to quote, make this cut and dry. Isn't that right?
The homeowner wasn't going to catch any shit because Mr. Elba had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death.
Because you were going to make sure that the case was cut and dry. Those were your words, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
As we're looking at your house, from the street looking at your house, are your bedroom windows, your and Nicole's bedroom windows, visible from the street?
Yes.
Which windows would they be?
If you were facing the house, they would be far left corner.
Upper or lower?
Upper.
Upper left corner.
Yes.
How many windows? 3 or 2 serve a set?
2.
Do it this way. How many feet from the windows would the closest part of your bed be to those windows?
Maybe 5 feet. 6 feet.
You indicate it's a relatively quiet street generally, Fairview.
Yes.
Not an enormous amount of through traffic.
No.
Not a busy freeway or a highway, correct?
No.
Not an especially noisy street,
The street, no.
especially at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning, right?
Right.
Where were you at 6:03 on the morning of January 29, 2022?
I was sleeping in my room.
6 feet from that window.
Yes.
Was Nicole in bed with you?
Yes.
Had you taken any medication the night before?
No.
Were you on any sedatives?
No.
Sleeping pills?
No.
Were you wearing a sleep apnea machine?
No.
Were you wearing an eye mask?
No.
Were you wearing earplugs?
No.
You shortly thereafter became aware that 6 emergency vehicles, including a fire engine, police cruisers, and unmarked police vehicles, a civilian SUV, were all parked in front of your house that morning, correct?
I'm not aware of what type of vehicles were parked there, no.
You seen photographs since this incident?
Of the vehicles out front?
Right.
No.
Are you aware that all of those vehicles had their engines running?
No.
Are you aware that all the emergency vehicles at least had their lights on, flashing lights?
No.
Were you aware that there were a number of first responders outside their vehicles, traipsing around your lawn?
Was I aware?
Were you aware at the time?
No.
Were you aware that there were emergency responders, first responders, who were talking to each other over the din of the wind and the snow
What?
to communicate with each other?
No.
You're aware that there were 3 women on your lawn at one point?
Just only after the fact.
And at least one of those women was screaming to the top of her lungs at 6:03?
No.
And your explanation, and by the way, we've already talked about this. Earlier that day, you've already indicated she was barking because she heard people and noises downstairs when you guys came in the house.
Yes.
Okay. And your explanation is that you and Nicole and Chloe, the German Shepherd, all slept through the entirety of that commotion on your front lawn.
Yes.
You never came out of your house to assist or investigate in any matter whatsoever, did you, Mr. Albert?
Once I was awakened?
Correct.
No.
Did you see this the other day, Dad? Hello?
Which bit?
The presentation I did with Proctor and...
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, we can turn it off now. I'm getting there. I haven't... Oh, Lord, I haven't even... Oh, what is it? No makeup, no lipstick, no hair, no nothing. Yeah. Oh, it's under 2 screens. Right. All right. So did we see that one?
Something you said just before we broke, and that was in respect of the...
No, it's the wrong one. That's this. That's the short. I want the full bit. No, I don't know where it is. Not going to happen. Not today. Get off. All right. Now let me find the other fucking thing. Where's my folder? All right. First one is Daniel Whitley. All right, share screen. Get rid of that out of there. Don't need you. Present. Image. Present. Share screen. There it is. All right. That's easy. Right. Oh no. Carrie Roberts, also referred to as Carrie, was a close friend of John. There we go. Additional details. Okay, she emphasised her close. I reckon she had the hot for him myself. Consistency in her timeline was the same. The only thing she added extra was she added that Karen said, "We drank so much, I don't remember anything from last night," during one of the early calls. Oh, she added a few. That she described her husband trying to discourage her from going out to the blizzard, which is fair enough. She added that, she provided more detailed description of entering O'Keefe's house through the garage and not the door. And she was very adamant about them taking their shoes off. If you're concerned for someone's life, I wouldn't be taking my shoes off. Sorry. She found it disrespectful that Karen didn't, though, and ran upstairs to look for John. She added that Jen ran upstairs to Katie's bedroom while Karen was just standing there in front of John's room, not actively searching. Well, we all respond differently, don't we? Like, describing in more detail the treacherous driving conditions to Fairview Road, stated Karen was yelling and frantic. Yeah, I would be too. And Roberts had to tell her to shut up several times and sit back and buckle up. She's mean. Added that Karen was sitting between the front seats and then would sit back again. And she noted Karen was not looking out windows like Roberts and McCabe were. Huh? Doesn't make any sense. Trial 1. Now, I asked them to actually hone in on their descriptions of the tail light of Karen's car in both. Heard Karen asking about her tail light at McCabe's house. This is what she said in the first trial. She observed Karen's car and had damage to the right passenger tail light with snow caked around it. I remember that testimony. She could see damage when someone applied the brakes. No specific mention of Karen pointing out the taillight or asking if she hit John when they were at the O'Keefe's house. Now, didn't someone say they actually saw her pick bits out of the inside of the frame and throw them on the ground? I'm sure someone testified to that somewhere. No specific mention of Karen pointing out the taillight or asking if she hit John when they were at the O'Keefe's house. Trial 2 in more detail. Everything was in more detail, this trial, because Hanks delved that bit further. So, whilst they're at Jen's driveway, Karen said, my tail light. While Roberts was on Bluetooth. Roberts saw a piece missing and there was a lot of snow. Stated she didn't think anything of it at the time. When she got to the O'Keefe's house after searching inside, when she got to John's house after searching inside. When they left the house, Karen pointed out her tail light and asked, "Do you think I hit him?" Roberts replied, "No, I don't think you hit him. What are you talking about? Let's go and find him." That is the video, ring camera video, that was missing, along with the one when Karen returned home from 34 Fairview. Those two. This interaction was described as occurring multiple times in the driveway. Described the damage in more detail. The piece was missing. There was a metal sort of square, and one of the pieces was sort of sticking out. She expressed concern that the metal piece sticking out could catch someone's jacket. Identified the damage on a photo, pointing out a white area where the piece was missing, and confirmed it was on the right passenger side taillight. Discussion of the taillight with police, because she also had a statement with an officer, I can't remember his name. She admitted in trial too that she didn't mention the taillight to police on her January 29th interview. Explained that "I didn't want to accuse anybody of anything," and confirmed she discussed the taillight on February 1st interview, telling police the taillight in the middle was broken and a piece of the metal encasement was pushed forward. Interactions with Karen Reid at the scene. So this is when they've turned up at 34 Fairview to find John. That name's better. Karen immediately jumped out of the car and ran towards something when they arrived at 34 Fairview Road. Karen was screaming, "Is he dead? Did I hit him?" Karen was hysterical while Roberts performed CPR on John. Trial 2. She added that Karen screamed, "There he is, there he is." They like to say things twice or 3 times. "Let me out of the fucking car," and began kicking the car door. Roberts couldn't initially see anything when Karen yelled this. When Karen ran to a mound of snow, Roberts realized it was the length of a body. Added that John's body was completely covered. Yeah, she didn't say she had to dig his face out of the snow to give him CPR last time and wrap the towels around his head. There was none of that. Roberts couldn't initially see anything when Karen yelled this. When Karen ran to the mound of snow, Roberts realized it was the length of a body. Added that John's body was completely covered. That certainly wasn't said in the first trial. And his head was completely covered with snow. Now, I don't know. If you turned up at a scene like that and they're covered in snow, they are cold to the touch and they're not breathing, they don't have a heart rate, do you start CPR? Like, because once they've started, the EMTs are they have to continue. Like, and if you don't know how long that body's been there, if it's more than 5-6 minutes, I think that's it. There's no lights, so to speak. That's always been a point of contention with me. Like, there's been so many attempted and successful revivals of people with CPR that turned up at the ICU, but they've been down for 15 minutes, They stay in ICU for the next 3 weeks and they go to a nursing home with, trachea tube. Where's that quality? So, all right. Roberts had to dig around his face and eyes to uncover him. Now, both her and the first guy that testified both said that his right eye was swollen first, and then when they saw him at the hospital, both eyes were swollen. So initially it was one, which may indicate because the wound was a blunt force trauma, of so long laterally across the back of his skull, but the impact could have been angled. Does that make sense? So the impact could have been more towards that way, because the contra-Q injury is the brain's bruising and swelling and bleeding at the point where it hits the front of the skull, which is why you get that raccoon eyes. And if it's swelling more on one side than the other, that would indicate to me that the impact wasn't universally straight and flat on, straight ahead. Does that make sense? More detailed description of CPR efforts stating that she did chest compressions for 4 to 5 minutes while waiting for EMTs. Actually, do you know, and it's very, very handy to have too, you can buy them, I think, from eBay, but they're a little keyring, basically, and it's a one-way valve resuscitation mask. So it's almost like just a protection shield. You know, you can go to public toilets, you can put the protection shield over the toilet seat. Well, it's similar to that, and you just keep it on your keyring, because a lot of people, when you're doing CPR, can vomit, they can aspirate, they can they'll have blood all over their face, and it's just one of those things it's handy to have on your keyrings, just in case. You just never know. She added she had to yell at Karen to get off him, because her instinct was to like pull his clothes up and start warming him by laying on him. Described Karen trying to do mouth to mouth. Instead, Karen was just running around screaming. Yeah. Added that Karen was repeatedly asking, "Did I hit him? Did I hit him? Is he dead? Is he dead?" Described Karen grabbing the front of her shirt, asking, "Are they working on him?" Interactions with Jennifer McCabe. Jen drove Karen's Lexus with Karen in the passenger seat, and Roberts followed in her Ford Explorer. Oh my God, I had one of those. They were crap. They call them the Ford Exploder over here. The suspension in them is ridiculous. Trial 2. Oh, Jennifer said to Karen, "No, I saw you pull." Oh, hang on, start again. Jen drove Karen's Lexus with Karen in the passenger seat, and Roberts followed in her Ford Explorer. Jen said, "No, I saw you pull up at my sister's house when Karen mentioned leaving John at the Waterfall Bar." That's right. Trial 2 provided more context about communication with McCabe, acknowledged that she and McCabe had become friends after the incident, admitted that they had spoken the morning of her testimony on Trial 2, though denied discussing her testimony, referenced creating a timeline. Now, I remember that was brought up in Trial 1, and it was suggested that Peggy O'Keefe suggested that they do this, because I believe Peggy has pointed the finger from the very start, which is why Karen felt so uncomfortable returning back to Meadows whilst the family was there, which is why she didn't stay. Admitted they'd referenced creating a timeline with Jennifer McCabe, help that influenced her testimony. Acknowledged that she testified to something at the grand jury that she never personally heard, but was told by Jennifer McCabe. That's what we were arguing about yesterday. I actually haven't read this before. The key differences in her testimony. The tail light description. In Trial 2, testimony was significantly more detailed about the tail light damage, including the metal sticking out and its appearance. Interactions at the O'Keefe house. In Trial 2, Roberts added the critical detail that Karen specifically asked, "Do you think I hit him?" when pointing out the damaged tail light at O'Keefe's house. This was not mentioned in Trial 1. Body discovery. Trial 2 testimony was much more descriptive about John O'Keefe's body being covered in snow and the efforts to uncover him. Karen Reid's behaviour. Trial 2 testimony characterised Karen's behaviour as more erratic and frantic, with more specific quotes and descriptive language. Admissions about police interviews. In Trial 2, Roberts admitted she didn't mention the tail light in her first police interview, but only bringing it up in subsequent interviews. Timeline creation. In trial 2, Roberts acknowledged creating a timeline with Jen McCabe that influenced her testimony to the grand jury about statements she never personally heard. Conclusion. Kerry Roberts' testimony in trial 2 was significantly more detailed than trial 1, particularly regarding the taillight damage. Karen Reid's statements about possibly hitting John and the discovery scene. Whilst the core narrative remained consistent, trial 2 testimony added important details about Karen asking if she hit John when showing the taillight damage at the O'Keeffe's house. A potentially crucial point for the prosecution's case. The testimony also revealed Roberts' relationship with Jennifer McCabe and how they worked together on their accounts of events, which became a point of contention during cross-examination. So, that is her comparison one. Now, I think I did an even deeper one just on the Alan Jackson. Yes, I did. The cross-examination. Open up. And I've dropped there, haven't I? Yes. Share screen. Now, whilst I'm going along, if you've got any questions, type them in chat. Oh, you lucky, lucky bastard. Dan's just put in. He's get a food delivery. That'd be nice. All right. The cross-examination. Do you want me to pull up the actual section? Yes, I know if you want me to. All right. It was day 2, wasn't it? Well, I feel like Chinese now. I feel like fried rice. Fly lie. Day 2. Kerry Roberts. Oh, I should be able to just. She second one? Okay, 50, 35. Oh, you can't see me. Share this tab instead. At stage. Okay. So I have the video and I have the transcript. So Kerry's statement starts at 50.
That's you in the.
His face and his eyes, and his left eye was fine, but his right eye looked like it was huge, like he had something happen to it. And after that, I told Karen to get off him. We were going to start CPR. I had been certified at work through the American Red Cross, so I knew chest compressions were more important. So I started to do chest compressions, and I yelled to Jen and told her to call 911. Karen was trying to do mouth-to-mouth. I don't know if she knew what she was doing, but I knew chest compressions were more important, so I concentrated on that. I yelled for Jen. I carry blankets. I have 2 kids, so I carried blankets in the car, so I yelled to Jen to get the blankets. I don't know what I thought I was doing with blankets, but I wrapped them around his head, just thinking we're trying to warm him.
Her taillight.
About what?
Her taillight.
No, when the EMTs were around and they were working on the body, she was running around and saying, did I hit him? Did I hit him? Is he dead? Is he dead?
When you were waiting for the police and EMTs, just briefly, what was the temperature like and the visibility like?
The temperature was freezing because I remember at one point I couldn't feel my knees, which is why I had Jen take over. And the wind was still whipping and the snow was still coming down.
At some point, did help arrive?
Yes, they did.
This is direct.
And when help arrived, what did you do?
I stood back and watched them work on him.
Did you see first responders trying to give first aid to Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
How long were you outside for that morning?
At that point, we went over my testimony on the screen. And then I just talked about my testimony from the last time.
Okay. When you say you went over your testimony on screen, what do you mean?
We watched my testimony from, Mr. Brennan had just asked me, can you just tell me what happened? So I told him the story verbally.
Okay. Anything come up about specific instances of how you were going to testify today
No,
or yesterday?
no.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit, Ms. Roberts, about the video that you were shown by Mr. Brennan. It's the dash cam video of Officer Seraph. I'm not sure if you know which officer that is.
No, I don't.
It's the one that you've been watching.
Okay.
That dash cam that shows your car in the foreground.
Yep.
I'd like to ask you a couple of quick questions about your memory of that incident, and then perhaps show you the video depending upon what the answer is.
Sure.
Do you remember when the officer first arrived, you and Miss Reed specifically were at Mr. O'Keefe's body?
Yes.
Your memory?
Yes.
Okay. Have you heard the 911 tape of that call?
Yes.
Okay. You're aware that that tape was also captured by an open line on Miss Reed's phone?
Yes.
That open line that phone was dropped inside the cab of an SUV?
It was in the back seat, I believe.
Right. So in order for that for that open line to capture sort of the background of Ms. McCabe's side of the 911 call, Ms.
Yep.
McCabe would have had to have been either at or in the cab of the truck?
The back of the SUV was open. She was standing there.
Got it. Okay. So she was right next to or adjacent to the cab of the SUV.
She was in back of it with the back was up.
I see that back hatch.
Yes.
Okay.
Next question.
That's all I have for the video. We can take that down.
Yes.
You made note of those,
Yes.
or at least some of them. You said you saw a hematoma of some sort over his right eye. Is that right?
Correct.
And there was some significant swelling to his right eye
Correct.
at the scene.
Correct.
Did you also notice a laceration just above his right eye, just under the eyebrow?
I saw it at the hospital, but I
Okay.
don't know if at the scene I saw it.
Fair enough.
When
At
you,
some point,
you guys drive on the right side of the road, don't you? So if you're parked with the house to your right. Is that correct? With the driver's door to the road, or do you park the other way? What I'm trying to get at is if you're parked in front, if you just like are driving along and you swerve in and pull in to park, you are parked with the actual house on your right hand side. Is that right?
No, from their pictures that they've shown of everything, the house is on the left of the car.
What? So they've pulled over the opposite side of the road?
You always see them when they're going to do stuff with John Keefe, they disappear off camera to the left.
With the driver to the roadside. What have I got? Where's that picture? Because the reason I say that, if you're parked in front of the letterbox, that is your passenger side door, yeah?
Depends which way the car's pointing.
Well, that would be the natural direction. Otherwise, we actually get fined, I think, parking on the other way. Over here.
I doubt that was a significant concern that morning.
No, but I'm just trying to figure out which direct were they facing the front of the car? Was it facing the flagpole or the driveway? Because I think
Not a clue, because you can't tell. Because there's too much snow and it's too dark.
There was heaps of pictures though. All right, so this is the main one I wanted to. Now.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
What?
Wontons and chow mein.
I know. I'm thinking about ordering it. I'm starving now.
So am I. I've just had a food delivery and now I'm thinking about ordering that.
Well, that's what started it. You and your food. Did you get Chinese or did you get Indian?
No, it was, just general food.
Why can't you see that tab?
All the stuff that normally you'd go to the supermarkets for, but I hate supermarkets, so.
So do I. I never leave the house. They get delivered to my door. I hate them with a passion.
If they could just make it that they put it away, it would be even better.
Yeah, if they could carry it in for me, that'd be good too. Yeah, I can't walk around them anymore.
I just hate people.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, it's other people in the supermarkets that makes me hate supermarkets.
I don't blame you. You'd be surprised how many people are actually ignorant to, like, if you're being wheeled in a wheelchair in a hospital, how many people are so blasé that what's behind them.
Yeah.
All right, I wanted to show you this picture. All right, so let's move us. We're in the way again. To me, the house is on the far side of the car, yeah? Now, that plough can be raised quite high, I believe. Yeah? From inside. And if his right eye swelled before his left one, which is two people have said that, then that means he could potentially have been standing in front of that and been hit on the angle with the right-hand corner. You get me? Would have taken 2 seconds. Wouldn't have needed 60 kilometers an hour. The force would have been there with that and the strength of that to cause that injury. Because the timelines around that time don't add up. Because Ryan Nagel said that he parked in the exact same spot as Brian Higgins. And Brian said that he was at least there. Well, he said that he texted John at 12:20, "Are you coming here?" Which gives you the impression that he's already there. But then his testimony said he wasn't there between 12:30 and 1. Now, Julie Nagel was coming out at the same time, and Ryan pretty much said that he pulled up straight after Karen. Yeah? In a few minutes, she had to do a 3-point turn to put it on that side of the road. But no one saw John get out. But no one saw John in the car. Surely to Christ, if it was the same time, Julie would have seen, like, she would have bumped into him. Unless she's come out a different door and he's gone in the door closest to the garage, which leads you straight sort of towards the kitchen, but you can be downstairs to the basement. And then you don't hear anything more about what happens to Brian until he swipes this card that Nat 3D.
You're stretching.
Am I, though? Am I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Because even with your version of events, he's not there till she's doing the 3-point turn, which is after John's supposed to have been hit.
No. How can John have been hit when she's done the 3-point turn?
It must
Ryan
be to
Nagel saw her
leave.
do it.
Yeah, to leave, not to stay.
No, to park in front, I think. Well, why didn't he see John then?
Because he wasn't looking. It wasn't near the driveway. It's supposed to be far off to the left where John's hit.
He said he pulled up
viewed the property
within a few feet of behind Karen's car. Headlights on. Facing the same way.
Yeah. Has she moved forward any? After striking him, has she moved forward? We don't know. It doesn't fit.
There's another picture here that someone did up about what the view would be if you were sitting in Higgins's car the way he explained he was parked. Remove, present, image. Because to me, if it's a vehicle pedestrian strike, that makes more sense than that he's hit by something like that. Oh, wrong fucking picture. Like that. That would explain the head injury. And only the head injury without any other damage.
No, it wouldn't.
Hey?
No, it wouldn't. That's far too low.
No, but it can be raised.
It would have to be raised so that the driver couldn't see where he's going.
What if John was bending forward? Which part of the car do you think Karen hit him with?
There is no way that plough can do the necessary damage. It just can't.
Well, then there's no way that Karen's car could do the necessary damage because that...
Yes, because it's not as low.
Hey?
It's not as low. The car can.
No, the bumper juts out heaps, and it's way lower than that.
The bumper... There's no give in that. If that hit the legs, there would be marks. There's no way around it. That would not work as the source of the injury. The mechanics of it do not work.
Well, that's my exact argument with Karen's car because it's round and low.
No. It's much higher than that snowplow is. Using that her car is low. Well, no, it's much higher than the snowplow is.
And all right.
Not to mention that's a Jeep CG. It just does not work.
All right, let's get rid of that one. I'll go back to Kerry's statement. Have you got something up? Oh, is that the court case? Is it the courthouse?
Just the courthouse. This is
Okay,
live
cool.
feed.
Thank you.
Just so if they come back, we can see it.
Yeah. Yep. Share screen. You can go. I don't like this new setup on StreamYard at all. It's confusing.
Also, there's a big hole in Karen Reid's whole argument, or her defense team's argument. It's no one knew this was going to happen before. So they're supposed to throw this whole cover-up and conspiracy together in 5 minutes.
No. That's what everyone is saying. They didn't have to throw anything up. All they had to do was not throw anything up. That's the difference.
No.
Yes.
They would have had to have thrown up a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, to hide the truth.
Well, for a start, they bought time, or at least.
Then they would have to have known that Karen Reid was going to do all the stupidity with her interviews.
Your mic's really low. Sorry, I can't hear you, Del.
Then they'd have to know for certain that Karen Reid would be so stupid as to do all these television interviews where she admits she hit him. See, that's a huge problem for the defense. Yes, she does. She's done 20 or 30 television interviews and documentary interviews where she goes on about her hitting him.
Could I have hit him?
She's the one that has single-handedly done the most harm to her own defense.
I agree, but not by saying those 3 words. She never said it.
Yes, by saying those words.
No.
Because the jury are going to sit there and watch her do it in her own words. All this stuff about them trying to undermine that she said it to the paramedics or that she said it to other people, all of that fails flat on its face and will not convince a single juror because they then hear Karen Reid saying it. All that stuff might have stood a chance originally until she opened her mouth.
I've lost my fucking hearing again.
And there is another problem with her testimony. None of it can be trusted. She was shit-faced.
Well, they all were.
Yeah.
So none of them can be trusted, but she gets the blame.
The people who were there in the morning, Kerry wasn't shit-faced. She hadn't been out drinking with them all.
Yeah.
The paramedics hadn't been out drinking.
She didn't say she hit him.
The paramedics hadn't been out drinking. There are a lot of other people's testimony that can be believed, whereas hers is still influenced by the fact that she was drunk. She has no idea what the hell she did that night.
But in the testimony that Kerry did, she admitted that she didn't hear Karen say that. She only said that because she
misinterpreted the question.
Hey?
She said it because she misunderstood the question.
No, she ended up admitting that she only said it because Jen had told her. That's why they made a big deal of this timeline. And I believe that Jen has influenced.
literally for Karen Reid to be not guilty, everyone else who's giving evidence against her has to be lying. All of them.
No.
Yes. Because they all say the same damn thing. She did it. This is where it falls down on it just becomes so ridiculous. Every one of those other witnesses has to be lying.
I don't believe she did it at all, because I don't believe that car was the murder weapon at all. And I don't believe that it's physically possible for John to be in that position to achieve that injury at all.
Well, it definitely is. With that vehicle at those speeds, yep.
How he got that injury. That's that, because at the end of the day, that's what killed him. That's all that matters. No, I don't have reasonable doubt that she's not. No. So this defense is that he was hit by a car, but it was a... I'm just throwing shit out there. That's all I'm doing. Because no one else did in this investigation. None. She was sewn up within the first 8 hours. Like, by the time they got to the hospital, she was sewn up by Proctor. That's it. End of the story. No one else was interviewed. No one else was a suspect. So it could well have been so many other things. Especially when none of it makes sense. They're all overlapping.
It doesn't have to make sense. This is the thing, though. People are obsessed with this. It has to make sense. It doesn't have to.
Just the fact of Brian Albert not coming out of his house right from the start, that raises massive red flags to me, because that is a conscious strategic move on his behalf. Simple as that.
Assuming he was conscious.
How do you know Karen didn't have a plan? Oh, well, we wouldn't, because apparently the investigators were shit. Now, if they were trying to convict her, do you not think they would have taken photos of that? Really? They would have wanted photos of every possible aspect of that crime scene. Everything. And yet nobody did.
But this is where you go from incompetence to conspiracy.
Crime scene. After the fact. Because Proctor never even went out to the bloody crime scene, for Christ's sake. Jody, do you think she could have believed she might have hit him if she watched him go inside the house? And well, she, as I said, I believe she was drunk, and she's going through every possible scenario. That's the last time she saw him, so she's gone back there and she's racking her brains. She may well have missed him come back out of the house, possibly. You know what I mean? Like, she may well have looked down at her phone and read something, and in that few seconds, she's thinking to herself, did he come out? Like, did I miss something? You know, that's the scenarios that are running through her head, as you would, because you don't know what the fuck's going on.
You have to be that level of drunk for that to be a scenario.
3v1 for guilty. Where's Tanya and Elizabeth? Oh, no. Yes, I haven't seen Anna for ages, or Liz. I don't know. I don't know.
I thought they were around yesterday.
Just as I'm watching, my brain's ticking, that's all. But you wanted to watch this this testimony where Kerry points out that she didn't hear Karen say that. I hit him. She only said it because Jen said it. Okay, here we go.
You saw that laceration to his right eye?
Yes, I did.
Did you also see a
I'm gonna
laceration
boost
to the
this.
left side of his nose, a smaller laceration to the left side of his nose?
I don't recall. I know there was blood coming from here, but I don't know If it was coming from inside his nose or from a
That better?
laceration, I don't know.
When you're pointing to the left side of your nostril.
Yes.
And basically just above the nostril, correct?
Yes, right around the nostril, there was blood coming this way.
Okay, draining to the left side of his cheek?
Yes.
Okay. You also saw, once you got to the hospital, that his left eye had swollen as well.
Now, both eyes were swollen and filled with what looked like blood.
And his left eye was black as well as his right eye?
Correct.
Okay. You also indicated that you saw, well, actually, I don't know if you did or not.
Oh, hello.
In your mouth, I apologize. Did you see his
catch
right
up?
arm?
I did.
Did it appear to you that he had some abrasions or lacerations, parallel abrasions and lacerations and punctures on his right arm?
They were scratches.
Scratches. Ms. Roberts, you previously testified that when you arrived, let me take you back instead of jumping right into it. After you met up with Ms. Reed at Jim McKay's house that morning, so this is just after 5 o'clock or so, the three of you arrived back at One Meadows, correct? Is that right? I'm sorry.
Correct.
Okay. You're trailing the Lexus SUV, correct?
Correct.
The Lexus pulls in to the driveway and you pull in directly behind Ms. Reed and Jennifer McCabe's driving.
Correct.
You're driving your SUV, correct?
Correct.
You've previously testified that when you arrived at One Meadows at that moment, that once that SUV, the Lexus SUV, had pulled in and you pulled in behind the Lexus, you got out of the Lexus, sorry, you got out of your SUV, they got out of the Lexus, and that's a point at which Karen showed you the back of her taillight and said something to the effect of, do you think I hit him? Do you think I hit him? Oh my God, do you think I hit him? Do you recall that?
I recall saying I didn't know if it was when we were coming or going, but she did point out the taillight.
Okay. When you previously testified under oath, your quote was,
No, I don't recall.
as a matter of fact, they told you that anything you wanted to provide to them, provide it. Give them as much detail as you could, correct?
I don't recall.
You just read
Hang on, I've got that far more.
the.
Together the events of what had happened.
So she was helping you and you were helping her, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So both of you were assisting in each other's memories, correct?
Yes.
I remember this, and you remember this, and you know, okay, now I remember this, correct?
Yep.
Obviously, that would help influence your memory, going over the event with someone else, correct?
Yep.
So what's on that timeline, you would agree, is not completely independent, your memory. It's a combination of your memory and Jennifer McCabe's memory. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, baby.
Thank you, Ron. So the two of you drew out some sort of a timeline for you to follow during the course of that interview. Is that right?
For me to follow what?
During the course of that February 1st interview, as you were interviewed in Ms. McCabe's house. I mean, that was the purpose of the timeline, to help you with that interview?
No, that wasn't the purpose of the timeline.
You used it for that purpose, though, obviously.
We did not. I was at Jen's house making a timeline, and the two officers showed up to interview her. I just happened to be there.
Right, and when they interviewed you, did you have that timeline in front of you? That's my question.
No, I did not.
Okay, but you had just created it along with Jennifer McCabe.
Some of it.
Okay. And then it was after that, that this timeline was Ms. Roberts, when was the last time you've spoken to Jennifer McCabe before you testified in this trial?
In this morning.
Did you discuss your testimony?
No.
So you and Ms. McCabe, who became friends because of this incident,
Correct.
talked as recently as this morning before your testimony.
Correct.
And your testimony now is that you did not discuss anything about what you're doing here
No,
or what you're
I
going to
did
testify
not. She
to.
called to wish me good luck today.
Is that better, Tricia?
When did you talk to her the last time before this morning?
I don't know, maybe a couple days ago? I don't remember.
Within days of you taking the stand yesterday, correct?
Yes.
Hang on. I've got it boosted so that we can hear what she's saying. But I haven't got it running anywhere else. So I'll put it back down.
Did you ever...
Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Roberts, I'm going to ask you,
Is that better?
to take a look at, actually, let me ask it a different way. Did you say that you did or did not recall texting with Jim McCabe during that January 29th interview with state police? Do you recall that or no?
No.
Okay.
During the interview, I didn't text
It was the
anybody.
boosted.
Are you saying you didn't text anybody or you don't recall?
I don't recall. I don't think I had I wouldn't be texting somebody if I was being interviewed by the state police.
Right. Okay. Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at a report of text messages?
Sure.
May I approach you?
Yes.
So this is where we're up to here. This bit.
Thank you.
Taxi.
May I?
Yes.
Take a look. There's two tabs. Take a look at the tabs and the data across the two tabs, if you will.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not rushing. May I?
Yes. Okay. Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch if you'd like. And I forgot to tell you, anytime we're at sidebar.
Okay. First,
No.
do you recall as you sit here texting Ms. McCabe that the state troopers were arriving or they're just getting there?
No.
Do you recall Ms. McCabe texting you anything back about calling me after?
No.
Did you in fact, different question, did you in fact call Ms. McCabe
Right after the interview.
and talk to her?
I don't know.
Oh, shit. My fingers aren't working.
Have you ever testified that at the scene, Ms. Reed was seated in the back of a patrol car along with Jennifer McCabe, and you were standing just outside the car and there was an interaction among the three of you.
Yes.
Have you ever testified, or have you ever stated, in any particular, that during that interaction, Karen asked the three of you to pray?
Yes.
Have you ever said or testified that during that interaction, where
when you were seated,
where they are seated in the back of the patrol car, and Ms. Reed asked you to pray, that Ms. Reed said to Jennifer McCabe,
Google hypothermia?
No,
You've never said that.
I've never said that.
You testified at the grand jury on
April 26th.
April 26th. Is that right? April 26th, 2022?
I do not know.
Right? Does that sound right? April 26th, 2022?
I have no idea.
Late April, does that sound right? I don't know.
I don't know.
It was 2022.
You testified
Under oath, correct? Yes.
Yes.
Swore the same oath that you swore here.
Yes.
Tell the truth, the whole truth.
And nothing but the truth, and penalty of perjury. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is it your testimony that you have never said that Karen told Jen to Google hypothermia?
Yeah, that's what I needed.
With her face. She hasn't got a very good poker face.
Is it your testimony that you have never said that Karen
Told Jen
to Google hypothermia, or that you don't recall saying that?
I don't recall saying that.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at a portion of your grand jury testimony from that day?
It might.
May I
It might.
approach?
Yes.
You should read on to page 83.
Thank you.
Sure. And if you can read on to page 83 as well.
This is the statement right here. Copy.
Yep. I testified. I didn't hear it, but I was told that she was asked to Google it.
I didn't hear it, but I was told.
You testified under oath at the grand jury that at some point Karen was in back of the police cruiser, correct?
Yep.
Objection.
No, I'll allow that question.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Does that refresh your recollection as to what you told the grand jury?
Yes.
And isn't it true that at some point during the course of your testimony under oath, you said that Karen was in the back of the police cruiser?
Yes.
And then you went on to describe that Karen and Jen and I were standing outside, and she made us all start holding hands and starting to pray.
Yes.
Meaning what the she being Karen Reed, correct?
Yes.
And at this point, they had lifted John up and taken him onto the gurney, correct? That's
I don't
what you
know.
described.
I don't recall.
Okay. I'm going to do this again, just so we're clear.
Yes.
Sure. Thank you. This portion of the bottom of the page.
At the bottom?
At the bottom, last couple of words.
Okay. Yep, I say I think, so I'm not
I have
positive.
a question for you.
Okay.
Fresh recollection.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
And you testified basically that you think, at least that's what you were telling the grand jurors, that you
Yep.
think that was the point at which they lifted John up
Yes.
and moved him into the ambulance, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
And then you were asked the question, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, correct?
Objection.
Do you recall that?
I did not hear the question about Google being asked.
I did not hear the question about
That's not my
Google
question.
being asked.
May I ask? May I inquire?
Just repeat that question.
Sure. Isn't it true that you were next asked by Mr. Lally in front of the grand jury, quote, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, end quote. Do you remember being asked that question?
No.
Take a look at like 16 through 18.
Okay.
Yes.
Was that refresh your recollection?
Is that a fresh recollection? That was the question that you were asked?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And in response to that question,
You stated, quote,
you stated, quote, at one point she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long Google hypothermia,
correct?
correct?
Who?
I'm sorry?
Yes.
That was very detailed. You agree that that's a very detailed and specific recount of an event. You recounted where you were, back of a cruiser, or they were in the back of a cruiser, correct?
Yep.
You recorded or reported the time, it was right around the time that you thought they were lifting John up and scooped him up onto the gurney, correct?
Correct. Yep.
I thought it was about that time. I wasn't sure.
Location,
I'm sorry, I didn't get that answer. You were talking over each other.
that's my mistake.
What was your answer, Ms.
I
Roberts?
thought it was about the time they lifted him up, but I wasn't sure.
You were very detailed about who was there. It was you, it was Jen, it was my client, Karen
Yes.
Reed, correct?
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
You were so detailed that you talked about where you were standing next to the cruiser open door, correct?
Yes.
What the others were doing, holding hands and praying, is that right?
Yes.
And the actual words used, you were as detailed about all of that as the actual words used. She asked her to Google hypothermia and how long, and then you stopped, Google hypothermia, end quote, correct?
Correct.
You will agree, at least for that purpose, you painted a very, very detailed picture in front of the grand jury, didn't you?
Yeah.
Except it's not true, is it?
I did not hear her ask that. I was told she was asked that. In
The
the,
answer to my question, Ms. Roberts, and I'm trick question. What you told the grand jurors was not true. You never heard her, my client, ask anyone to Google anything, did you?
I did not.
And yet, that's what you testified to.
Yeah.
Under oath, under penalty of perjury, in front of the grand jury, didn't you?
I did.
And the reason
I
you
did.
that, the reason that you said that false statement was because someone told you to say it, correct?
Objection.
Is that, I'm going to let her answer that.
Nobody told me to say it. I knew it happened at that time,
How did you
which is
know
why
it
I said it.
How did you know it happened, Ms. Roberts, if no one told you it happened?
Because we wrote a timeline. We already spoke about that.
Timeline that Jennifer McCabe helped you with
Yep.
That influenced your testimony
Yep.
in front of the grand jury, correct?
Yes.
Obviously.
I was telling what happened in the back of the cruiser.
The timeline
Can answer.
you wrote,
So when you ask a question, let her answer, okay?
the timeline you wrote, with Jennifer McCabe's help, influenced your testimony to testify in front of the grand jurors to a statement that you never heard,
Right.
correct?
Yes.
Yes. There you go.
You were later asked about that statement in another investigation, by another investigator or set of investigators, correct?
I don't know.
Were you interviewed by a different law enforcement agency, a separate law enforcement agency?
No,
from the
Dan's muted,
Massachusetts
so
State Police
it's
at
not
any
coming
time?
from him. And it's
Yes.
not coming from me, because if I pause that, I hear nothing. And if I had two streams running, I would hear both of them, and mine are muted. So I think when Jackson claimed Karen saw John, would have been better to say, would have been a better lie to say John was coming in and going out several times. Well, she didn't see him, so you can't say that. I think that's exactly I think Kerry's been the perhaps the not so popular one at school, and the Jen McCabe's are the mean girls, and she got in with Jen McCabe. Is the stream with the fan courtroom running? Oh, actually, Dan's got another trial thing to pull up. I think that might be that, maybe. Has that stopped now? No, it's still going, because it's just... I'm wondering if you're picking up on that, Dan. What does that you want me to play, Dan?
Maybe the patient might need a transfusion. So there are many different case scenarios where the results can,
Is this
can help
live now?
the provider.
Oh, shit.
Clinician.
What did you tell me?
Now, with
Because I only just
reference to,
noticed.
alcohol,
Alright.
does the Good
Should we
Samaritan
go
Medical
back?
Center, do they also test?
Because I like the
alcohol
medical
within the
examiner.
blood?
This is my shit. This is my
Yes, we do.
jam.
There you go. At the beginning.
Swear that the testimony
Thank
you
you.
shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yeah, I think Dan had this sitting at the bottom of the stream, and you might have been able to just hear it, perhaps.
No, it wouldn't be providing any
Good morning,
audio.
doctor.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I can't get my
Morning,
earphones
sir.
to work.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury, spelling your last name for the court?
My name is Dr. Gary Fowler, Epperson Frank, A-L-L-E-R.
And what is your occupation?
I am a physician pathologist.
And where do you work?
I work currently at Signature Health
Lally!
in Brockton.
It's Lally!
And how long have you worked at Signature and in what capacity, sir?
Signature, I started, it's probably 6 months. I took a new job 6 months ago. I've been, I am the chief of...
Yeah, the echo is coming back from you, Jody.
Is that?
Yeah. I'm going to guess you've got us on speaker.
Oh, yeah, I have, because they've just picked it up again. Sorry. Did you see me just play with my... It's just come unplugged a tiny bit, and now... No. Okay. Why isn't it picking up my earphones? Fuck.
Just being mean to you.
I might. Now it should work. Motherfucker. Doesn't matter what I select. Ah! Hang on.
Yay, live broadcast.
All right. Now I can hear it in my ears. Let me see if it's on here. No. The fuck?
Adjust the setting in StreamYard.
Yeah, I am. And it's the actual setting in StreamYard that's not picking up my earphones.
We can't hear anything you're saying.
I might have to refresh.
Okay.
I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. It's not. It's not do nothing. That won't kick me off, will it? Or
No, it won't close the stream or anything.
all right.
She'll be back in a minute. I would say we could all say really mean things about her while she's not in the room, but I say mean things about her when she is in the room, so it kind of defeats the purpose. This is why there's no tech support run by Australians. Just saying. And it would happen to her right during her favourite bit when the ME is going to give evidence. The bit she's been most looking forward to. She's back. Now remember, don't say anything. Shh. No, it only works when you bring yourself up on screen. And the echo's there. Are both your devices Bluetooth?
No. No, because I can't have two outputs. It just won't get off. Oh, hang on. Let me try again. Better?
Can't tell till I speak. Oh, no feedback.
Yeah.
It did. There's no feedback.
Yeah.
Whatever you just did fixed it.
Yeah. It was a different sound setting in the PC.
Yeah. Okay, you can have your ME stuff now.
Yay!
Of pathology and the laboratory medical director at Signature.
And where did you work prior to your work at Signature about 6 months ago?
Prior to that, I was at Good Samaritan Medical Center in the same capacity.
And how long did you work at Good Samaritan for?
Since 2015, late 2015.
And did you work in any capacity similar to that prior to working at Good Samaritan?
Prior to Good Samaritan, I worked at the Kearney Hospital, which is in Dorchester. Started that job in 1996. So I stayed on staff at Kearney Hospital up until actually closed 6 months ago. So I've been on staff at Kearney's for quite a long time.
Where did you go to school and what degrees did you receive?
I went to college at Tufts University in
believe
graduated in '87. From there, I went to Tufts Medical School and graduated in 1991.
I graduated
Following your graduation, where did you go from there?
After medical school, I did a residency at Tufts Medical Center in 1991 to 1996.
And then where did you go following your residency?
And right from residency, my first job was at Kearney Hospital, which I previously mentioned, so 1996.
And doctor, are you board certified?
I am board certified in anatomic pathology and clinical pathology.
And what is a board certification?
Board certification is something we need to show that we are actually qualified to perform the job that we need to do, both in anatomic and clinical pathology. It's a written exam that we take and we need to pass to demonstrate that we're competent and know what we're doing.
First, in just general terms, if you could explain to the jury, what is pathology?
Pathology is, well, there are two basic branches of pathology: anatomic pathology and clinical pathology. Anatomic pathology is basically, an anatomic pathologist is a physician or MD or a DO trained to.
We've got multiple experts this trial.
And we're also trained in autopsy pathology as well. So basically, an anatomic pathologist, we look at tissues via glass slides. Slides are made, and we every day make the diagnosis of, somebody has a cancer or somebody doesn't have a cancer, benign. Look at colon polyps, breast biopsies, pretty much anything that comes out of the operating room or a physician's office, any sort of biopsy. Clinical pathology, on the other hand, is basically a clinical pathologist is a physician, an MD or a DO, who specializes in the clinical lab, which basically is any fluid specimen, including blood specimens. When you go to the hospital and you have your blood test and it gets sent to the lab, the clinical pathologist is ultimately responsible for the quality of your lab tests and quality, and basically that's it.
And so the time that you worked at Good Samaritan, did that cover the date of January 29th, 2022?
Yes.
And again, what was your title and what was your job at Good Samaritan in the month of January 2022?
I was the chief of pathology at the time and laboratory medical director.
And what did you do as the laboratory medical director?
Laboratory medical director, basically, the laboratory medical director is responsible for the ultimate quality of any, either whether it's a biopsy, somebody's biopsy, or lab result. The laboratory medical director has to make sure that the final result is of excellent quality. So there are many different things that we need to make sure that things that are in place, as far as need to make sure we have the correct amount of workers. You want to have enough workers. You want to make sure they're competent. So as many, there are policies for competency for all the lab techs and phlebotomists and even pathologists. So basically the laboratory medical director, if something goes wrong, it's ultimately his or her fault.
And the lab at Good Samaritan, is that lab accredited?
Yes, it is.
And by what body?
We are accredited, or Good Samaritan is accredited by the, we call it the CAP. It's a College of American Pathologists. They are considered the preeminent accrediting body for hospitals. They've been around for probably 70 plus years or so.
What is accreditation? What does that mean?
Accreditation is basically something that says that your laboratory is following guidelines and providing excellent quality. To be accredited with the CAP, every 2 years we have a laboratory inspection. They don't tell you when they're coming. They will give you a 3-month window and they'll come and inspect you to make sure we are have a good quality lab. Each section of the lab, pathology, the clinical lab, microbiology, chemistry, hematology. The CAP has a checklist with numerous requirements that one needs to fulfill. There are probably over 3,000 items that they look at.
And was your laboratory at Good Samaritan, was the accreditation up to date on January 29th, 2022?
We were accredited, still are.
Now, in Good Samaritan Medical Center, when a blood test is ordered, what types of things is the lab testing for?
I think the most common tests that are performed when you go and you have your blood tests is one is chemistry, a chemistry test where we sodium, potassium, chloride, glucose. We also a common test is a CBC, or a complete blood count, where we look at your red blood cells and your white blood cells and your platelets. Those are the two most common tests.
And why is blood testing ordered in the course of medical treatment at a hospital?
when you're admitted to the hospital, usually you're sick, so the physician is usually a standard, ordering chemistry and CBC to see if there are any clues in those tests that could help the doctor take care of you. If they look at a BUN and creatinine, maybe if they're elevated, you either could it be dehydrated or have renal failure. If you look at liver function tests, maybe there's something wrong with your liver. So it's just a general, a good look at the patients to see if there are any clues that could help them.
And as far as the blood testing results are concerned, how does that assist either a doctor or a clinician in treatment and diagnosis?
It helps you a lot, actually.
Basically, what I just said. If there's nothing, if the results are normal, that sometimes helps too. Rules things out if they're normal. If they do a CBC and look at the hemoglobin and it's low and patient's anemic, maybe the patient might need a transfusion. So there are many different case scenarios where the results can help the provider, the clinician.
Now, with reference to alcohol, does the Good Samaritan Medical Center, do they also test alcohol within the blood?
Yes, we do.
And why would that assist medical treatment and diagnosis?
I think if a physician is wanting to know if somebody's been drinking or has alcohol on board, or maybe not, maybe that patient has ingested maybe drugs of abuse, so they'll test for alcohol to see if it's positive, and if it is, then it helps confirm that the patient has been drinking.
Now, are there any policies and protocols at Good Samaritan Medical Center with reference to how blood is taken and how blood is tested?
Yes, we have numerous policies. We have one policy specifically for phlebotomists. Those are laboratory technicians who draw the blood. So we have a policy for them to explain exactly what they need to do. And also in the laboratory, we have numerous policies basically for any tests that we provide. And so we have a policy for alcohol testing as well.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Doctor, I'm placing before you two sets of documents. Just ask you to review those generally and look up when you're finished. And do you recognize what those are, sir?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury what is contained within each of those two sets of documents?
Okay. The first one is a patient preparation for specimen collection. This is the policy that I was mentioning, specifically designed for our phlebotomist to detail the procedure of the blood draw. Basically goes through one of the most important parts of the process is correct patient identification, where we need to correctly identify the patient. We have the patient state his or her first and last name and state it out loud to make sure it matches which the patient that we're trying to draw. And then we also match up the bracelet to the medical record number on the patient's bracelet. So one of the most important things is correct patient identification. The rest of this policy goes on and just pretty much details what to do next, including finding the veins, cleaning the site. It has some information on if there are any complications. So it's basically the entire process of the blood draw. The second one is our alcohol policy, which pretty much details in detail what goes on behind the scenes for an alcohol blood test. in our hospital.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, Commonwealth, so you can introduce in the minutes the next two exhibits.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, for the record, it would be the patient preparation for specimen collection, the next exhibit in line.
All right. Exhibit 35.
And the ETOH policy would be the next exhibit number 37.
Exhibit 36.
Excuse me. Thank you. Now, doctor, what types of precautions are in place at Good Samaritan with respect specifically to alcohol testing in the blood? Or I should say taking the blood sample from the patient.
Yes, one of the major things we need to do with taking somebody's blood for alcohol is to obviously not use an alcohol swab. Normally, when you have your blood test, they cleanse the area with a swab that contains alcohol. So in our policy is a specific statement that says, do not use alcohol swab, because potentially when you're drawing the blood, if you suck up some of that residual alcohol, you could cause a false positive. So we have in our policy, and every hospital should have the same policy, where we use a swab, a swab that has no alcohol. We call them a moist towelette. That's what we refer them to. Also, in the emergency room, my supervisor pretty much removed probably 95% of all the alcohol swabs. So just in case a phlebotomist forgets to not use an alcohol swab, they are hard to find. We need to keep a few there because we need to use alcohol wipes on certain tests like blood cultures and stuff like that. So,
when were the alcohol swabs removed from the emergency department?
It was before my time.
So fair to say prior to January 29th, 2022?
Correct. Yep.
What is a phlebotomist and what do they do?
So phlebotomist is a healthcare professional who specializes in drawing blood. So they're the ones who are trained, competent, and know what to do when they draw a patient's blood.
What kind of training do phlebotomists receive at Good Samaritan?
We try to hire phlebotomists who have been trained. It's just easier. So they can have a high school background, but if we train on site, they just need to be trained on the proper protocol, proper procedures, and demonstrate competency.
Is there any sort of proficiency testing related to phlebotomists at Good Samaritan?
2 out of 3
There's no proficiency testing for phlebotomists, but there's competency assessments. So with phlebotomists or any laboratory technician or even pathologists, there are strict guidelines for competency. We have to always make sure people know what they're doing, and it's a CLIA or a federal government regulation or requirement. So when anybody first starts in a hospital, the requirements are, one, initial training. You can't let anybody come in on their, without not knowing what they're doing. So we have to document that they have the initial training and they're competent. And then the law says 6 months from that, we do another competency assessment where we look at 6 elements of competency defined by CLIA, and 6 months from that, 1 year from the start date, is another competency. And then after that, it's annual thereafter. And that goes for phlebotomists, and it goes for any laboratory technician.
Doctor, once the blood is drawn by the phlebotomist, what happens then?
So the phlebotomist will draw it at the time. They need to have the specimens labeled in the patient's room because you don't want the
Well, you
phlebotomist
got to pick the vial
mislabel.
first.
So everything gets labeled at the patient's bedside with an initialed and with the phlebotomist's initial and date and times. That blood test will then be sent to the lab. In this case, the blood was drawn in the emergency room, so it gets packaged into a plastic bag and sent in a pneumatic tube up to the laboratory.
And once it's sent to the laboratory, what happens with the sample from there?
Once we receive it, it's called receiving the specimen. There will be a
Oh,
technician
really?
who then goes into the computer, enters the phlebotomist's name from the tube into the computer system, enters the time, and the technologist will look and see what was ordered, and then do the appropriate next step based on what was ordered.
And in a case in which alcohol is one of the items that are ordered, what is the next step as far as the testing goes?
So the next step with alcohol testing, we use a specific tube so the phlebotomist would know what tube to use. It would be a light green tube that has lithium heparin in it. It's an anticoagulant. We don't want the blood to clot, so that's why we use an anticoagulant. So the first step when testing for alcohol is that the test is designed to be performed on serum or plasma. And to get that, the next step would be to centrifuge the blood. A centrifuge is a machine that spins the blood rapidly. We spin it at around 3,300 RPMs, which is pretty fast, rotations per minute. And the reason why we spin it, because centrifugation will allow it to separate the blood components based on the density. So heavier stuff like the red blood cells will go to the bottom, and the lighter stuff like the watery component of the blood will go to the top, and some of the white cells go into the middle. But for alcohol testing, we are targeting the top part of the blood component, which would be plasma.
And then once it goes through the centrifuge process, what happens then?
So once it's centrifuged, we have the separation of the blood components. We have the plasma ready to be tested. So that technologist will walk the specimen over. It's probably 10 feet from there, and put it onto our Roche Cobas machine. That's our machine that performs our chemistries as well as alcohol testing. It goes onto a machine. All the testing is basically inside of a black box. And the label present on the blood tube will dictate what the Roche machine will test. So based on the barcode label, once it's on our machine, it knows what test to do, and it will perform an alcohol test.
And Doctor, for our stenographer, do you know how to spell that Roche Cobas machine that you were just referencing?
Oh my God, R-O-A-C-H-E.
R-O-C-H-E, Roche, and Cobas, C-O-B-A-S.
Thank you, sir. May I approach on?
Yes.
Was it snowing? What, if any, blood did you put in those tubes?
Doctor, showing you another series of documents again, if you could just look at that and look up when you're finished.
Brendan's given him the dunce to interview.
Do you recognize those records, sir?
Yes.
And what do you recognize those to be?
These are the medical records of Karen Reed.
And sir, is there an indication within those records as far as the date of treatment for Ms. Reed?
Yes, there's a bunch of dates in here.
As far as the treatment is concerned, sir?
Yes.
And what is the date of treatment?
Oh.
29th. I vote good.
1-9-22.
Sorry, is that 2922?
That's what it says on this. Admit date, it says 1/29/22.
Put your glasses on, you moron.
He said 1-9
If I
before,
could,
not
direct your attention
1-2-9.
further into the document to a
Fucking
previously
knob
tabbed
jockey.
portion. Do you see any indication in there as far as
Can I request
a
he's
result
never
for
my
alcohol
doctor? Because this guy's blind.
He's a forensic pathologist, so he won't be treating you. he's analysing.
Yeah, but he can't see the bloody paper. He's as blind as a bat.
Yes, I do.
How do you analyse it if you can't see it?
And with respect to that result, have you reviewed these records prior to today?
Yes, I did.
And if you could explain to the jury sort of the timeline from this blood sample as far as, let's start with first when it was ordered.
So when it was ordered, it was 9:03 in the morning.
And when was it taken, sir?
The blood test was taken 5 minutes later, so 9:08.
And then what happened, or what is the next time that something of any significance happened with it?
5 minutes from that, 9:13, we received it, and 9:53 in the morning, the result was entered into the computer. So it was ordered at 9:03, and I believe it was 9:53. The results were in the computer.
And may I?
Tanya, this guy doesn't need a microscope. He uses the Hubble telescope to examine shit. He's that blind.
Coach, again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm about to seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit.
Any objection, Ms. Little? No objection. All right, thank you. Exhibit 37.
Your Honor, may I return to the document?
Yes.
And doctor, what was the result of the testing for alcohol in the defendant's blood when it was taken shortly after 9 a.m. on January 29th?
93 milligrams per deciliter.
Thanks. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Little? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Fowler.
Oh, good afternoon.
The Good Samaritan lab is a clinical lab, not a forensic lab. Is that right?
Correct.
And hospitals are not in the legal business of calculating an individual's blood alcohol concentration. Is that right?
I would say 99.9% of the time we are not in the legal business. We are testing alcohol for the diagnosis of alcohol intoxication. But occasionally a case may come, very rare, to a hospital, and it ends up being a legal case. It's not common. I think uncommon.
And you'd agree that there are differences between screening tests that are conducted at hospitals and forensic tests that are conducted by law enforcement, right?
Yes.
The purpose of testing in a clinical setting is to assist in the diagnosis and treatment of a patient, right?
Correct.
And physicians need to analyze blood quickly. They need to get the results so they can see what's in a patient's system and then effectively and efficiently treat that patient, right?
Correct.
Whereas in a forensic setting, tests for blood alcohol concentration are designed to produce results that are reliable and credible for use in court. Correct?
Correct.
You testified earlier today that your lab is accredited by CAP, which is the College of American Pathologists. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes, I do.
But CAP is a clinical laboratory accreditation, not a forensic accreditation, right?
We don't have the forensic accreditation for Good Samaritan.
In fact, Good Samaritan has never been investigated or accredited by any forensic accreditation team to ensure that you perform all of your tests with the integrity necessary to support results in court, right?
We've never had the forensic accreditation, but we have very good quality lab results, which I could go into further.
But you've never been accredited by a forensic accreditation team,
No,
right?
no.
And the lab at Good Samaritan has never been accredited by the ANSI, which is the National Accreditation Board known as ANAB. Are you familiar with that organization?
No.
Are you aware that ANAB is the forensic accreditation body that in the United States that ensures that laboratories' procedures meet the minimum standards necessary to ensure results are reliable and credible for use in court?
Objection.
Sustained.
Now, the most reliable method of forensic ethanol testing is called headspace gas chromatography, or HSGC. Are you familiar with that process?
Yes.
And HSGC is the method that's used by forensic labs to test for blood alcohol content, right?
Correct.
And that's because forensic tests require the testing of whole blood for the presence of alcohol, right?
Correct.
Can you briefly, just for the jury, describe sort of the difference between a whole blood test and a serum test?
Sure. So whole blood, to put it simply, when you have your blood drawn, you see the fluid coming out all red. That's whole blood. We don't do anything to it. We don't spin it down. We don't centrifuge it. That is whole blood. That is the specimen of choice for forensic blood ethanol testing. Hospitals, on the other hand, our methodology, which is just as good as the forensic headspace gas chromatography, is based on looking at the serum or the plasma. So we don't, that's what when I explained that we need to centrifuge it, take the liquid portion off the top. So in the hospital, we test it on the serum or the plasma. Now, did you ask me the difference? You want me to go into the difference?
That's enough, Doctor. Thank you. I'll ask some additional questions to kind of clarify. And in a forensic lab, they actually require the testing of whole blood, correct?
Correct.
And HSGC directly measures ethanol in the blood.
Correct.
And this method is designed to be accurate and reliable for forensic purposes for use in legal proceedings, correct?
Correct.
But the testing in this case was performed using the hospital's clinical chemistry machine instead of a forensically defensible method like HSGC, right?
Correct.
And that clinical chemistry machine performs what you just testified to, a serum test, right?
Serum or plasma.
Serum or plasma. And hospitals use serum or plasma testing because it's actually quicker and more efficient than HSGC, right?
Yes, it's less labor intensive. It's easy to automate, but at the same time, very, very good and very accurate.
But serum testing does not actually measure alcohol directly. It instead measures the presence of what's called NADH, right? Yes, I'll repeat that. That was my fault. Serum testing does not actually measure alcohol directly. Instead, it measures the presence of NADH. Is that right?
Almost.
Well, NADH is a byproduct of alcohol, right?
NAHD, isn't it?
Correct. I can go into the testing how methodology that we use to explain it if you want me to.
Well, serum
Really?
testing measures the presence of NADH, correct?
It measures the rate of change of NADH production, so it doesn't actually look at just NADH, and it measures the rate of production, and I can go into more detail on that. Alcohol testing in the lab is correct.
I'll ask you some additional
Okay,
questions
sure.
about NADH, and we'll
Sure.
get there.
Yeah.
So you can do this now, but let the doctor answer his question fully next question, okay? And the following questions.
Doctor, the higher the NADH in a patient's system, the higher the serum test result, correct?
That may not be correct, no. It's the rate of change of NADH production based on our methodology. I can go into that. So our test system is a little bit different than the forensic testing system, but it's also very good and very accurate, and almost when we compare our methodology to the Headspace, we get the exact same results, and when we compare and with peer laboratory comparisons. But what we do is and I think the jury needs to know this, maybe some of you might understand the chemistry behind it, but we do, we take the patient's sample, and it's based on, we add, because when there's alcohol in the specimen, we add, actually, in the test system, alcohol dehydrogenase. It's the same enzyme that's in the patient's body. In addition, we add a surplus of NAD to it. NAD is similar to NADH. They get converted back and forth. So when we put it on our test system, it's alcohol dehydrogenase is in there, and what happens is when there's alcohol, it combines with NAD that we add to it. It creates NADH. And then in our machine, there's a spectrophotometer.
I'm going to pause here and
can
say, well, yes, you
monitor the rate of NADH production over baseline. And we use, there's something that measures, and a photometer that measures the NADH
Keep
production.
lying and delaying
Looks at light
and being
and
a
physics, and
complete
looks at
clusterfuck.
340 nanometers, and it's pretty accurate. It will monitor. It will tell you, it will tell the system how much NADH is produced, and that amount is directly proportional to the alcohol in the patient sample. So it's a very, very accurate test, but there are some limitations that I can go into.
So wait for another.
No, that's fine.
Next question, Ms. Little.
Yes, so serum testing can be subject to errors, right? And there are limitations.
There are some limitations that I can explain, just like headspace gas chromatography may have some limitations too, but I can go into them.
Next question.
What are some of the limitations?
All right, I've had enough. I'm going to wipe my ass with you.
Of the
serum testing.
Okay. So the serum test, as with many tests in the laboratory, different things can interfere with our laboratory tests. And the three most common ones, which are unlikely to affect ethanol testing, is
Why is it?
we abbreviated HIL. We want to look at those.
What is it? We're on Steve's stream last night, and Uda Heffoot and I were at it, and he's like, right, tomorrow we'll watch it together. And the second that I get the right point and the answer, he mysteriously disappears. Every time. Actually, that was better muted. Oh, did you pause it? Sorry.
Yeah, I paused it. Nah.
Were you riveted?
I was riveted to studying the inside of my eyelids.
Yeah, that's why I was putting little clips on. I'd rather watch paint dry.
Yeah, this guy, I feel sorry for the jury.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Hemolysis,
We can't
which
even
is
play me
H,
double time, can
and
we?
the other one is I, icterus, which is high bilirubin, and the third is L for lipids. High lipids will interfere with alcohol testing or with any testing based on that same methodology. Our machine, the Rose Kobash machine, and all the machines out in the market today are very sophisticated. If we have elevated levels of any H or I or L, it will flag it and raise the potential for a problem. The next thing on the list is that our alcohol testing is not absolutely specific for ethanol. The two possible other alcohols that can cross-react, one is propanol and butanol. But then it goes clinical history. Did the patient ingest those two alcohols? And third is there's some unusual hematologic malignancies like Waldenstrom's macroglobulinemia that can interfere. So it's always have to correlate with the clinical situation. The next one, sometimes there can be patients who make endogenous, make their own alcohol. So very rarely, some patients may truly have a positive result. That could be from our test or Headspace. They make their own, so we have to rule that out. It's a rare condition. And the next one is one that's in the literature, which is LDH and lactic acid. If a patient has a markedly elevated LDH or lactic acid, those one is an enzyme, and the other one is an acid. That can cause false positives. Now,
if I could stop you there, Doctor, I think those were the four that you identified, the four limitations: the lactic acid, the hematology.
Yeah.
If I could just
go ahead and ask your next question.
If I could ask you a few more questions about LDH and lactic acid.
Sure.
You're aware, Dr. Fowler, of the medical literature establishing the presence of LDH and lactic acid can lead to falsely elevated serum readings, correct?
Correct.
And that's because lactic acid or LDH actually forms NADH.
Right? Lactic acid, I'll have to go into a little bit of chemistry. Lactic acid and LDH, lactate dehydrogenase, they both act on each other. And LDH and lactic acid needs NAD plus to break it down. So in theory, when you're testing a serum, a plasma for blood alcohol, if there's extra LDH or high levels of LDH, high levels of lactic acid, you add it to the test system, and then Roche throws in, or Siemens throws in the NAD, it will form NADH. That was first documented, I think, back in the older versions of these ethanol testings back in the 1990s, when they stumbled on, they were looking for biomarkers or reasons in kids with SIDS, little babies, and they found that two of these babies had a positive alcohol. But
Doctor, if I could just ask the next question, if that's okay.
Sorry.
So in other words, NADH, studies have found, can actually be formed by certain biomechanical processes other than the presence of alcohol, right?
Yes.
Are you aware that the National Institute of Health has found that liver diseases, kidney diseases, muscle injury, trauma, and even anemia are some of the health conditions that can lead to a rise in serum LDH levels?
Yes.
Are you aware that Ms. Reed was severely anemic in January of 2022?
Sustained.
Are you aware that the medical literature has also found that patients suffering from multiple sclerosis have a twofold increase in NADH levels as compared to controls?
I'm going to allow that.
I haven't read anything specifically related to the NADH level, but But I want to go back to the point where our laboratory, our testing is not based.
Let him finish his answer.
It's not. It's the rate of change of NADH. So if somebody has NADH on board, I believe it's not going to affect the result. It's the rate of change, and it basically, you know, back to the anemia. I haven't read or heard of that.
That was stricken. That was not allowed.
It all goes back to the lactic acid and the LDH. The NADH doesn't matter. So looking at multiple sclerosis patients, they can have elevated LDH and lactic acid, but it's not to the extent that it can interfere with the alcohol levels. There was a study maybe 7-10 years ago.
Your Honor, there's no question pending.
You asked him about a study, if he was aware of the studies.
I asked, and that's a yes or no question. And he's...
All right, Doctor, we're going to hold that there for you and ask the next question.
Doctor, have you reviewed the August 21st, 2013 peer-reviewed article entitled Serum NAD through Disease Course in Multiple Sclerosis, which was sponsored by the Center of Healthy Brain Aging by the University of New South Wales? Which...
Can you do that again and slow down, please?
Sure. Doctor, have you reviewed the August 21st, 2013 peer-reviewed article entitled Serum NAD Levels through Disease Course in Multiple Sclerosis, which was sponsored by the Center for Healthy Brain Aging by the School of Psychiatry at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia, which specifically found that patients suffering from multiple sclerosis have a twofold increase in NADH levels as compared to controls?
Objection.
I'll strike the part of what the article held. Is he aware of the article?
No, I'm not, to be honest, no.
Dr. Fowler, did you consider Ms. Reed's anemia and multiple sclerosis condition when you conducted the alcohol test on January 29, 2022?
No, we don't, no.
And again, serum tests like the ones conducted in this case don't test for ethanol. They only test for NADH, right?
We test for the rate of change of NADH production.
And Doctor, you did a number of other tests on Ms. Reed on January 29, 2022. You tested for additional drugs, not just alcohol, correct?
Correct.
And all of those results were negative.
Correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay.
Doctor, are you aware, I know your lab at Good Samaritan did not do this process, but are you aware through your training and experience of any sort of mathematical conversion that can be done from a serum reading in milligram per deciliter to a blood alcohol concentration in whole blood?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it. The door was open.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I am aware. Yep.
And please describe what you're aware of with reference to that.
Well, with blood alcohol concentrates goes to, when it's in your blood, it goes more to the watery components of your blood. So when I described the process earlier, whole blood is before we spin it. And when we test the plasma, which is specifically testing the watery component. Now, people have done studies like how much percentage of water is a serum versus whole blood. Basically, to put it simple, there's a higher percentage of water in the serum versus whole blood. So a hospital result will always be a little bit higher than a test on whole blood. It can be I think the ratio, the conversion factor is anywhere from 1.1 to 1.18. So it could be 18% or 11% higher in serum versus whole blood. But we don't do it. That's what I read. I will defer that to the experts.
Now, doctor, you were referencing in your cross-examination about a study that you were aware of about 10 years ago or so regarding MS and alcohol testing. Is that correct?
It was more on MS, looking at the results of lactic acid and LDH to see how high the levels of lactic acid can go in a group of multiple sclerosis patients. When reviewing that, we found that the range went from some normal range, 16% of the multiple sclerosis patients had normal lactic acids, but the remainder had elevated levels. But those levels were not anywhere near the required levels to produce a false positive. Our package inserts and for the Roche testing system, the Roche has, it's an FDA approved test, and they have to do in-depth, detailed testing before they allow any hospital to do a test. And they have listed levels of lactic acid beyond which the test would not be reliable. But the results, based on this study of 600 multiple sclerosis patients, 2 big centers in Italy and 1 in the Netherlands, show that the highest level of lactic acid in the MS patients did not achieve, didn't get close. Usually patients with MS that are asymptomatic can have normal or low normal levels, or slightly elevated. It was the ones that had more symptoms that had elevated levels up to, I think the highest was 6.5 millimoles per deciliter, which is not high enough to interfere with our result.
Now, with respect to the lab at Good Samaritan Medical Center, the interference that you were speaking about earlier on cross-examination, what would happen if any of those types of interference were to occur during the course of the testing?
No, I'll allow it.
The 3 main ones, which I detailed earlier, is the hemolysis, icterus, and lipemia. Machines are sophisticated. It will detect it and say, it will flag it and say, please do not result it, or we'll have a disclaimer saying, interpret this result with caution. The results may not be accurate. And it hardly ever happens with alcohol testing. But if it did, we would get a result like that, and we probably wouldn't report it.
And from your review of the defendant's medical records, specifically her testing from January 29th, did you notice any interference or any reports like that in her record?
No.
Now, the testing that you're doing at Good Samaritan is in relation to patients such as that might have cancer or heart disease or something like that, correct?
Correct.
Now, you were talking or started to speak on cross-examination about the good quality lab results that you have from your lab, and you wanted to go into that further. Could you please expound upon that for the jury now?
We have, you mentioned proficiency testing before. So all hospital laboratories accredited by the CAP or have to participate in proficiency testing. What that means is that every 3 times a year, and they give us 5 unknown samples. And we have to test it, report it back to CAP, which also reports back to the government. And we have to basically get the correct answers. And with alcohol testing, it's probably one of the best tests in the laboratory. Always have right on the money results. But at the same time, we're also able to look at results of all the other labs that participated in this proficiency testing. So we can look at different methods. We can look at labs that had the same method as us to see how we're doing. And usually with this proficiency testing, we have 3,000 labs across the nation that have the same methodology as us, so we can compare to them. And also, interestingly, we can see the labs that are using headspace gas chromatography. And out of interest, we can see, how do we compare? And we have exactly the same results on these proficiency testings. We also look at some statistics as well, not going into them, but we can look at some stats like standard deviations and SDs. And actually the hospitals with enzymatic testing have slightly better stats with that compared to Headspace. Pretty close, but a little bit better.
And doctor, from your review of the defendant's medical records and the blood testing in this case, was that done in conformity with the policies and protocols at Good Samaritan?
We have policies in place to be followed, and there's no reason not to think that somebody didn't follow policy.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else, Ms. Little?
No questions.
All right, doctor, you are all set, sir.
Thank you.
Yay!
Woo! Do you have another witness, Mr. Brennan?
I do.
Okay.
The Commonwealth calls Jason Becker.
Did anyone actually get his name? Oh, I took that post off of the other side. Gary Fawler. Okay. He was an expert.
Yep.
That's why they're also here.
And here's testimony number 1.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Good afternoon, sir. All right, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Jason Becker.
How old are you?
I am 36 years old.
Do you live in the area?
I do. I live in Canton.
Tell us a little bit about your education.
My education, high school and college UMass. And I went to EMT school a little over 10 years ago and paramedic school.
Tell me a little bit about EMT school. How old were you when you started EMT school?
When I started EMT school, roughly 21 years old.
Why did you decide to go to EMT school?
Wanted to save some lives.
Tell us a little bit about EMT school. What did it require?
EMT school is a couple months of classroom stuff, and then you do some ride time on the ambulance. Paramedic school is a little different. It's about a little extended, 2 years worth of training. You're doing hospital, ER time, and ambulance time also.
How long did you serve as an EMT before you went to paramedic school?
I worked as an EMT for approximately 5 years.
Can you estimate how many dozens or hundreds of calls you were on during that time?
Hundreds.
Why did you decide then to go get paramedic training?
Oh, I wanted to be on the fire department, and it was a prerequisite.
Did you complete paramedic school successfully?
I did.
Were you still working as an EMT at the time?
I was.
And inevitably, did you seek to have a different job? Did you try to be a firefighter?
I wanted to be a firefighter, correct.
Were you successful in doing that?
I was.
Tell us a little bit about that, sir.
On the Canton Fire Department. So I got on the Canton Fire Department, and they send you to the fire academy, where you train to be a firefighter.
So you had EMT training, paramedic training, and then firefighter training?
That's correct.
On the Canton Police Department, did you serve dual roles as a paramedic and as a firefighter?
Fire department?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Firefighter and as a paramedic.
You served as a firefighter and a paramedic?
Correct.
In the Canton Fire Department, does it have more than one station?
There is. There's two.
Is there one station that's larger or smaller than the other?
Station 1 is the headquarters, which is larger.
Had you ever spent time at Station 1 as a firefighter or a paramedic?
I have. We rotate through both stations.
I want you to take us back to January 29th, 2022. Were you working that evening?
I was.
What station were you assigned to?
Canton Station 2.
Canton Fire Station 2?
Correct.
And that's the smaller of the two stations.
It is.
Were you working with anybody at Fire Station 2 that night?
My ambulance partner at the time was firefighter Dan Whitley.
Was there anybody else who was working at Fire Station 2 in addition to you and Dan Whitley?
Correct. There was an engine company with 3 guys on it.
3 people were assigned to the
engine, correct.
Were you and Dan Whitley assigned as partners for the day, the week?
Correct. Yes, we were.
The month, or even your year?
The week.
So for the entire week, you're partners with a person, and does that rotate on other assignments?
It does. It rotates.
So on this particular week, you were assigned as partners with Dan Whitley?
I was.
What were your roles between the two of you?
Preceptor. I was a new paramedic at the time. So I was more or less the lead tech on all the calls as part of my training. And Dan's been a paramedic for a long time. So he was there to teach me.
So would Dan Whitley be the lead on the call and he would help you?
I would be the lead.
You would be the lead.
Correct.
Did you get a call that early morning hours of January 29, 2022?
We did.
What was the call assigned for?
It was a call for Section 12 psych eval.
Very briefly, can you tell us what a Section 12 is?
Sure. It's a transportation order filled out by police, doctor, basically for us on the ambulance that we have to take the patient, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, because they're a threat to themselves or someone else.
When you received the call for Section 12, were you aware that there were other calls that Fire Station 1 had responded to that morning?
We were aware. You can hear the calls going out each station.
Were you or Dan Whitley any part of that earlier call that Fire Station 1 responded to before you got the call for the Section 12?
We were not.
So your efforts were after?
We were after, correct.
After you got the call to respond to a Section 12, did you head towards Fairview Road?
We did.
Tell us a little bit about the trip to Fairview Road.
It was a little extended because of the weather conditions at the time. Snowing heavily, windy, low visibility.
Okay. How long did it take to get from Fire Station 2 to Fairview Road?
Approximately 8 to 10 minutes.
Who drove?
Firefighter Whitley.
Now, on the way to Fairview Road, do you sit in the front of the ambulance?
We do.
Take us to when you arrived to Fairview Road. What do you see?
You see a bunch of police lights. Canton Engine 3 was already on scene, so we parked behind them.
Did you have it, without talking about what you spoke about, did you have a chance to speak to anybody at the scene?
We briefly spoke to the Canton police, and they briefed us and sent us to where the defendant was at the time.
Why do you have a conversation with other first responders at the scene before you do anything?
They're making sure the scene is safe to begin with, and they're unseen first, so they have a little more info than what our dispatch would have.
After you had that debriefing with colleagues, were you directed to approach any certain person?
I was.
Where did you go?
I went to the defendant, who was sitting in a black SUV type car.
Were there other persons inside the car with the defendant?
From my understanding, it was one person in the driver's seat.
And what seat was the defendant in?
She was in the front passenger seat.
Did you have a chance to speak to her?
I did.
And the person you spoke to who was in the passenger seat of that car, do you see that person in court today?
I do.
Could you point out and describe an article of clothing, please?
Yeah, she's next to Ellen Jackson, blonde hair.
Navy blue.
How long was your conversation with the defendant while she was still seated inside the vehicle?
Approximately 5 to 8 minutes.
At some point, did you and the defendant move to another location?
We did.
Where did you go?
So we went back in the ambulance.
After having a conversation with her, was she cooperative going back to the ambulance with you?
She was.
And did you ask her to be seated in the ambulance?
I did.
She cooperative with that as well?
She was.
Get the fuck
After she
down!
was seated in the ambulance, did you close the doors and get in?
We did.
When you say we, who was with you?
Me and firefighter Whitley.
So you and firefighter Whitley were in the back of the ambulance with Miss Reed, who was going to drive the ambulance?
Firefighter Sam Park.
Where did he come from?
He was on the fire engine that was already on scene.
I want to ask you questions now about what you did in the back of the ambulance and some of the conversations that you had.
Well, you know,
Tell
that's
us what your role
classified.
is once you have a patient in the back of the ambulance. What do you do next?
I mean, each patient's different, depends on what the call is for. In this specific situation, it was more a psych eval, because that's what we're called for. Initial triage questions: is the patient cooperative, uncooperative, combative? I asked her name, her mental status, where she was. I asked her if she was suicidal, and if she was, did she have a plan? Did she want to hurt anyone else? Those are kind of the initial triage questions that I'd ask.
Why do you ask those questions?
Just to get a...
In Australia, to call what's called the CAT team over here, it's called Crisis Assessment Team for Mental Health, where the ambulance, well, they actually do a phone interview with you first, if you call them, to ask about what's going on and blah, 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 blah. If that person has not made a plan to do said self-deleting, they don't come. Yep.
That's dumb.
Yep. Shit, I not you. Because I've called it before. Yeah, they're dumb. But mental health is a massive loophole in every country. I think it is just...
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm thinking at this point, it's nearly as bad as disability. Just quietly. No, fuck that noisily.
Kind of a judgment on the patient, reading the patient.
What's your role at that point? Are you an investigator?
I'm not.
Are you in any way law enforcement?
I'm not.
So what's your focus when you're speaking to a patient?
It's basically hearing them speak, hearing their story. In this specific situation, we didn't know circumstances. We just knew that Miss Reed had found her husband, which she was gone dead on the side of the road. So it was a traumatic call.
So when you were there, you knew nothing about what had happened before you got there?
We did not.
And your role had nothing to do with any of that investigation?
We did not.
You were solely focused on caring for the patient?
Correct.
Did you have any other role other than caring for the patient?
Just making sure she got to the hospital safely. She didn't hurt herself.
During those conversations, are you and firefighter Whitley doing the same thing or different things?
Again, it depends on the call. I was the lead tech, so I'm the one documented, giving a report to the nurses, the staff.
Yeah.
So I was more kind of getting that information, my initial triage questions, and then just kind of sat and supported Miss Reed. And
were you writing down information, technical information about status and health on a report?
I was, yes.
While you were doing that, was your colleague speaking to Miss Reed?
He was.
Did you have a chance at times to hear what they were speaking about?
Yeah, and no.
At other times, did you speak directly to Miss Reed?
I have.
Can you describe her demeanor or temperament?
Initially, she was agitated because she didn't feel like she needed to go to the hospital. She said the statement she made, she didn't mean. She just kind of said in jest because of the events that she went through. So but then there'd be periods of which she'd be calm, and it would fluctuate. She would have like pressured speech, repetitive, but all in all, she was cooperative.
At some point, did
Has
you
she
have
got
a chance
any mental health
to speak to
diagnosis?
her directly?
Oh,
about
it's the
her
anxiety,
mood?
but
About her mood?
About her mood.
I don't know if I understand the question.
Okay. Did she say anything to you about her last interaction with what she referred to as her husband?
Sustained.
Did she make any statements to you when you were giving her treatment or speaking to her
about
her husband?
I'll allow that. It came in.
One of the reasons why she was saying suicidal stuff is because the last conversation she had with her husband at the time was an argument. I didn't feel like it was my role to really find out the details on what was said. But that's what she said to me.
But the last thing she said to him was an argument?
Yep.
Sustained.
Did she tell you what the argument was about?
She did not.
Inevitably, did you get a chance to bring her to the hospital?
We did.
Did you stay in the back of the ambulance with her?
I did.
Did you continue to have conversations with her?
Yes, I did.
Did you hear conversations or parts of conversations she was having with your colleague?
I had parts.
When you got to the hospital, what happens next?
So we brought Miss Reed into the hospital, registered her, bring her to the psychiatric section. Is it?
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
Thank you.
She must have some form of actual medical diagnosis of mental health, surely, to be sectioned that quickly with their mother.
I have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Firefighter Becker.
Good afternoon.
When you first arrived at the scene, there was at least two Canton police officers there still.
Correct.
Do you remember their names?
Officer Saraf and Officer Mulvaney.
Okay. Their cruiser was there. You said that an engine was still there?
Correct.
And was there another ambulance there, or the other ambulance had already left the scene? They'd cleared?
They had already transported to the hospital.
And remind me, you were in ambulance two?
I was ambulance 2.
Got it. You parked behind the SUV where you ultimately made contact with Miss Reed, correct?
I think it was more in front of the SUV because the way the SUV was parked.
Got it. Got out of the ambulance, ultimately made contact with Miss Reed through the passenger door?
Correct.
Had a short conversation with her there?
I did.
You said it was maybe 5 to 8 minutes?
More like 5 minutes because of the weather conditions.
Okay, nothing of great consequence. I'm guessing just an initial, I think you called it sort of a triage assessment?
Well, it's more of just introducing myself and asking her how she was doing.
Got it. And then there was one other person in the cab of the vehicle as well?
There was.
Female, male?
Female.
So there are two females, one Miss Reed, one another female. Did you see any other civilian females out there?
I didn't see.
Okay,
But
so at least where you were, the contact that you had with Miss Reed and this other
real?
female, there was just two of them, not a third one.
from what I saw, correct.
Did you get the other female's name?
Not at the time. I did not.
Okay. By the way, have you since gotten her name?
Based on a conversation Firefighter Whitley and Miss Reed had back in the ambulance.
Got it. Okay. And who is that other person?
Miss Carrie Roberts.
Okay. When you first observed Miss Reed, did you note whether or not there was anything unusual about her physical appearance, meaning anything on her?
She did, yes.
Describe that for the jurors, please.
She had some blood around her mouth, her neck area.
At that point, were you concerned about, obviously you're concerned mainly about her safety and getting her safely to the hospital, correct?
That's correct.
Were you worried that that might be her blood?
She had said that she had given CPR to her husband.
Okay, you jumped a question ahead. I was going to say, did she tell you that it was in fact not her blood?
She did, so that kind of, in a way, ruled it out.
Okay.
No injury for me.
And you didn't notice anything about her that looked like she was physically injured or physically in harm?
I did not.
Okay. She indicated that she had given CPR, mouth-to-mouth, attempts at mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
She did.
And that would account for the blood on her face and in her hair and on her neck?
That's what she told me.
Okay. And based on your observations of her, you didn't have any reason to quarrel with that?
Correct.
Okay. You indicated that her tone was somewhat rapid and repetitive. Is that right?
It fluctuated. So at times it was, yes.
Did it appear to you at that time that she had gone through a pretty significant trauma as best you were trained at the time?
Objection.
a little bit more of a foundation. I'll give it to you.
Sure. Have you ever, in your course of training, seen individuals who have gone through some sort of a traumatic event?
Frequently.
Frequently.
Everyone's different, though.
Understood. Well, obviously, everybody's got their own personalities and the way of dealing with those things, right?
Sure.
Have you been able to, through your training, assess whether, at least in your belief, your observations, if someone has gone through a relatively traumatic event, as opposed to just someone whistling down the sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay. Did it appear at that time when you're interacting with Ms. Reed that she was showing the signs consistent of having gone through a trauma?
At the time, yes.
Okay. So hence the rapid speech, the repetitive speech, things of that nature?
Correct. For her. For the defendant, some people don't have repetitive
Understood.
speech.
I'm just talking about your observations of her at that time.
Yes, sir.
Her demeanor was consistent with having gone through a significant trauma.
For the situation, sure. Yes.
Okay. You said that she went from calmness to agitation. The agitation you accounted for being, I don't necessarily want to go to the hospital. I don't want to be sectioned, correct?
She felt like she didn't need to. It wasn't, she wasn't going to act on her comments about wanting to harm herself.
You called it, I think in a report, it's SI, suicidal ideation.
Correct.
That's obviously of great concern to you and your partners when you're assessing a patient, correct?
That's right.
You don't want to leave someone on their own if they're going to self-harm, correct?
That's correct.
You pretty quickly assessed, I'm guessing, Firefighter Becker, that she was not, in fact, in the position to self-harm, that I think you said that the statements that she originally made, if John dies, I don't want to live, were not necessarily at the level of actual suicidal ideation. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, at the time I believed her because of the information we got and what she went through.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand your answer.
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Of course. It's probably my fault. At the time that you assessed her, even though she had made some comments about if John doesn't live, I don't want to live either, you did not elevate that to the level of her being suicidal at that moment.
So I couldn't rule it out, but
okay.
We
You got a duty of care.
I didn't think it was a huge threat at the time.
Understood.
But
That's what I was trying to get at.
couldn't rule it out, so that's why we had to take her to the hospital.
Understood. I mean, you had a Section 12. You had to take her irrespective of what you ruled in or out, right?
Right.
Okay. Firefighter Whitley was with you in the back of the ambulance the entire time you were with Miss Reed, correct?
Not the entire time. He was before we decided transporting. He was kind of in and out, trying to find more of, talking to the police officers, find more of a story of, what happened, why we're taking the defendant on a Section 12.
Once you and Miss Reed were in the back of the ambulance, Firefighter Whitley then joined you in the back of the ambulance?
He did.
How much time lapsed?
It was a couple minutes at the most.
Okay, so it wasn't a lengthy amount of time.
It wasn't lengthy.
And he was with you during the transport, along with Miss Reed, for the whole transport back to Good Sam.
It's a good, yes.
And you said on direct examination, I think your phrase was, all in all, she was cooperative with us.
For the majority of the transport, yes.
Okay. Never became combative, never got physical, nothing like that?
No.
Okay. She did refer to Mr. O'Keefe as her husband or her spouse?
That's correct.
You're aware of HIPAA rules, obviously. You're in the medical field, correct?
Correct.
You're aware at the time that HIPAA rules would demand or dictate that unless you're a spouse or a parent or a child, there are certain rules against getting or providing information to someone who isn't one of those close family members, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You previously indicated on direct examination that, I think your words were, that Ms. Reed indicated that her last conversation she had with her husband was an argument, correct?
Correct.
You've previously testified about that statement in other particulars, right? Other hearings.
I have.
You're paraphrasing. You didn't write down what she said about her previous interactions with Mr. O'Keefe, and you didn't record those on a tape recorder, correct?
I wrote down in my report that she said she had an argument.
Right. You didn't write them down at the time. That was a bad question on my part. You weren't taking notes as she was speaking.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, it's kind of for every call, we jot down notes on a notepad, just
Okay.
so, when we give the staff a report, we can read off it.
Do you have those notes?
I don't.
Okay. Do you think you took notes or no?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I could have been typing them on the computer. That's what we typed the report on
Okay.
at the time.
Do you have an independent recollection taking notes, either handwritten or on a computer as you sit here right now?
I couldn't tell you if I did one or the other. Sometimes
Okay.
I write on the computer, sometimes I don't.
Or you might not have written anything down, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So in any event,
And you
weren't
wonder where
taking down-
conspiracy
you know,
theories
you weren't
come
taking
from.
notes, you weren't taking down verbatim quotes of what she was saying. You were paraphrasing the information that was coming to you, correct?
That's correct.
All right. You had previously said or testified that the last time, let me rephrase that just a little bit. You previously indicated in recounting what it was that Miss Reed actually said to you was something along the lines of she was upset because her last words to him were because of her last words to him being in anger. I object.
I'm going to allow the question.
Is that correct?
Well, I probably phrased it a little wrongly. The last words. It was the last conversation.
Okay, that wasn't my question. My question is a simple one. In a previous hearing, did you use the phrase "her last words to him"?
Yes,
were
I did.
in anger?
I did.
And that was at a hearing where you're under oath, just like you are now, correct?
Correct.
That was a little closer in time than we are now. It was maybe a year ago, correct?
Correct.
Actually, my mistake. It was about 2.5 years ago. It was a grand jury, correct?
Grand jury was before. Yes.
Okay. And the phrase that you used was, and I want to concentrate on that for just a quick second, Firefighter Becker.
Sure.
The phrase that you used at that time was that she said, quote, like her last words to him. She was upset about her, quote, last words to him. Is that right? I object.
All right, can I see counsel at sidebar, please?
I plowed him. You still like there, Dan the man?
No, I'm definitely asleep.
Do you want me to finish it off and you can have a break, or?
No, I'm still here.
Huh?
Just none of the testimony today is of real interest, to be honest.
No.
I get why they have to do it, but it's just the boring crap.
The introduction of evidence just gives me the shits. So they have to meticulously go through it. They're going to have to go through all those evidence bags again and everything, aren't they?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. We need to think of something fun to do. Keep us awake.
May I continue, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. When you were recounting the conversation that Ms. Reed indicated that she was upset about, you also indicated, in addition to using the phrase her last words to him, you also said that it was earlier in the night, correct? They had an argument earlier in the night.
I don't recall.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, take a look at the top paragraph, very, very small print. Let me know when you've refreshed your recollection.
Yes.
Great. May I approach?
Yes.
You got it.
When you wrote your report, you had indicated that when she was describing the argument that you testified to on direct, it was about an argument that was, quote, earlier in the night.
Earlier in the night, correct.
Okay. And then you recounted that statement, that same statement in the grand jury later on as at least including, quote, her last words. Is that right?
Her last words.
You were talking about an argument that they had, and then she was upset, and you were paraphrasing her. And one of the things that you paraphrased was, in fact, your statement was she was upset that was like her last words to him, correct?
She said that.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Were you also made aware, did she tell you that her last words to him were in voicemails? Did she say that?
She didn't give any details.
Did you ask her, what were your last words to him?
I did not.
Did she ever say whether or not she believed he ever received her last words to him?
There's no other details than there was no other details other than what she said.
Okay. But she did, when she was having this conversation with you about her last words to him, she did actually take out her phone and show you a bunch of missed calls to him at the same time, didn't she?
She tried to, yes.
Okay. In your mind, did you put two and two together that what she was actually talking about were the missed calls and her being upset about her last words to him being very angry on those missed calls, those voicemails? Did you put those two things together?
I didn't.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Brennan?
Sir, when Ms. Reed told you that she was sad because her last conversation, or her last thing that she had said to him was an argument, did she ever suggest that was in a voicemail?
Objection.
Oh,
Did she ever suggest it was in a voicemail?
She did not.
Did she ever suggest that she didn't actually speak to him, but instead it was some type of message?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Did she ever suggest that?
She did not.
In fact, you wrote a report saying that there was an argument earlier in the night, didn't you?
Objection. Your Honor.
Sustained.
You then were interviewed, weren't you? Were you
Yes.
interviewed on February 14th, 2022?
Yes.
And you referred
Are
to
you
the fact that
drinking
she
or
told you
have-
there was an argument earlier in the night?
Argument early in the night.
And she was telling you this when you were speaking to her that morning?
Correct. Around 6 a.m. Yes.
And earlier in the night, you know if she was referring to 12:30
I did not know.
or 12:15
No.
or midnight?
I didn't know the time.
So his answer is he doesn't know.
You testified in the grand jury, and Attorney Jackson just asked you some questions about part of the statement you made to the grand jury when he said, like her last words. Would you like to put that in context of the whole statement you made? Do you remember
her last words?
Do you remember the entire statement that you made in the grand jury about the statement that was made to you?
I'd have to.
May I approach?
Yes.
This is page 81, lines 1 through 4. Please read it to yourself.
Right here, sir.
1 through 4, please.
Is Teresa still here?
No.
Yes. Right.
To be lurking.
Now, when you made that statement you were asked about in the grand jury, you didn't just say like her last words, did you?
No.
How's that?
You explained your memory to the grand jury?
Objection.
Ask him what he told you.
I'm making crunchy
The
nuts.
grand jury,
cornflakes.
do you know it was on April 21st, 2022?
Yes.
Okay, and did you tell the grand jury So she.
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for a second, please.
Sidebar. Ah, look who's online. Did you just get that notification?
One look at you, and I know that you are an idiot.
Does that actually sound like me? Because I narrated it. It reminds me. No, I'm chewing my peaches. Anyone seen? Is it Kung Pao into the fist or?
May I approach?
Yes.
So I'm showing you that statement that you made. That includes last words, but there's more to the statement, isn't there?
She was upset.
I'd like you to read
Oh,
your
sorry.
entire
Sure.
statement, 1 through 5. And read it out loud.
So she was also she was upset also because she said they had, the last time they had talked, she had gotten into an argument. So she was upset that that was like her last words to him.
How funny is that? Really?
And so when you were speaking about her
I guarantee it was me.
last word to him, were you referring to the argument?
Correct.
It's
You testified again regarding this issue, didn't?
It's a piss take of an old Jackie Chan movie. And the Matrix, where the cow comes up and does slow-mo and he's squirting milk out of his udders and stuff. It's really funny. And the baby's got the he's the chosen one, and he's got the special tongue. He goes, it's fucking hysterical.
On May 3rd, 2024, argument.
Objection.
I'm going to allow this.
You have to Google it. Kung Pao.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Kung Pao into the dragon, I think it's called. Into the fist.
Can I ask you to read your prior statement on page 10, line 9 through 13?
Nah.
Objection.
I'm going to see you at sidebar again and bring these documents. Please bring all of it.
All right. Who here has watched Life of Brian? And there better be 7 hands.
Obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, remember at the start of the movie, the baby rolls down the hill and stops on the road, and the lady picks up the baby and so cute. And then keeps throws it down the hill again, makes it keep rolling. Favorite Monty Python movie? Yeah.
And the Holy Grail.
I'm thinking I still like Life of Brian.
Oh, Life of Brian's good, but there's always the Holy Grail as well. Don't forget the Knights of Ni.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's Brian.
But it's a flesh wound.
It's a mere flesh wound. All I said was this piece of alphabet was good enough for Jehovah. Oh, thank you.
He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy.
Naughty boy. I'll have 2 points of flat pack of gravel. Whoop, double chips, get away the rock. Lovely. Haven't seen it. It's not the The Judean people's front. The people's front in Judea. Yep. Funny, man. How many of them are still alive?
3, I think.
Miss Stewart, sorry, I wasn't mint.
I think 3 are still alive.
John Cleese.
John Cleese, Michael Palin, and I think there's one other.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm showing my age now, but who used to watch The Goodies? It was a TV show based in England. Jim Brooke Taylor, Graham Oddie, is it? No, Bill Oddie and Graham. I can't remember. Goodies, goody, yum, yum. And it always used to play here about 4:30, right before Doctor Who.
Uh-oh, they're back.
Oh, the silly walks. Bill Oddie, yes. Actually, have you heard his version of Wild Thing on The Goodies?
Yeah.
That was awesome. Wild Thing.
Matt?
Yes.
Thank you. Sir, when you wrote the report of your notes to put in your report, do you remember the word argument?
I did.
Do you remember her
Tanya?
actually saying the word argument?
I did.
I remember Jamison being, 12, 13, right? And we had all of the digital channels and shit that she could watch. And she's flicking through the thing going, there's nothing to watch on here. And whinging, right? With the 500 choices she had. And I said, okay, I'll choose you something. And I made her sit down and watch an episode of Monkey Magic. The next time you complain, I'm going to make you watch another one because that's what we had to watch. And they made a second series about 15 years ago. It was shit. Chimitaka. Yep. Sorry. You can go now. See, that was more entertaining than them. And the birds are go.
Do you remember her ever saying any word about voice messages?
I did not.
You said that there was somebody in the front seat of the car with...
Was that you or me? Not me, I'm eating. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The defendant?
It was.
And you later learned from the defendant it was a person by the name of Kerry Roberts.
Correct.
Can you share with us the context? How did you learn that?
The defendant and my partner, firefighter Whitley, had a conversation.
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
So the defendant brought up how if her husband had died at the time, she didn't know how she was going to take care of his kids.
Objection.
I'm going to allow this.
And firefighter Whitley mentioned that she had like a strong support system. You know, all the friends are on Canton and.
Objection, Your Honor. Angry approach.
My God. Oh, hang on. Power into the fist. They actually did subtitles for the dog. Wolf. They David Carradine. You are the chosen one. Ah. Have you seen it, Dan?
Unfortunately, yes.
I think it's one of those ones that you really have to be ripped off your face. Apparently, allegedly.
Hey, you can't forget Australia's one contribution to the worldwide thing of TV.
Paul Hogan?
There's only one. Prisoner.
Ah! Do you know?
The original, not the remake.
Yeah. I used to sit up and watch that at night. I think it was on after Dynasty. That's sad, isn't it? With the freak.
Yep.
They I live about a 4-minute walk from those recording studios.
What, the original ones?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I sure as shit do. Is that not right, Tanya? Where they record Neighbours and, well, not the actual street of Neighbours, but that's not far from here either. But yeah, is it Channel 9? I think it was Channel 9. They don't do much of it over there now, I don't think. Massive block though. Favorite Chinese food? Is it Chinese specific or Asian? Because there is a massive difference.
We used to get so much of your crappy TV over here.
We used to get like yours too, the bill.
Yeah. No, nothing we ever sent you was as bad as